history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this November 11th, 2025. Where is this month going? Can you believe we're almost already halfway through the month of November? Logan, we got to go to the Dolly cam real quick. Dolly, you're looking beautiful tonight. Look at you. Isn't she gorgeous? You are looking beautiful, as Tony Bennett would say, right? Beautiful. Logan, you know who Tony Bennett is? You don't know who Tony Bennett is? All right. Well, I would just say beautiful, Dolly. Looking good. Looking good. How you feeling? Doing good tonight? Ready for a big show? Ready for a big show? Gonna be a big show. We're gonna have with us tonight. Look at that beautiful face. Look. Whoop. Oh, thank you. Look at that beautiful face up there, Dolly. Look at that beautiful face. That's you. I know it's you. There's a big 85-inch television hanging up. Yes, you see yourself, don't you? Beautiful. We're got a lot of great guests tonight. We're going to be joined by Mitch Vexler again. Remember Mitch talking about what is over $17 trillion in fraudulent school bonds? Well, he's back tonight to talk about brand new information, and that is related to, things like President Trump calling for a 50-year mortgage. What does he think of that? How does that fit into the whole school bond thing? Then, how about this one? And that is, did you know that the guy behind the movie The Big Short, Michael Burry, he's back, and he is heavily shorting NVIDIA and Palantir. Apparently, he thinks we're in a big AI bubble. In fact, there's a lot of people talking about the similarities between 2007, 2008, the housing crash, the failure of Lehman Brothers and others, and that it smells an awful lot like that. But this time, it's even worse. We're going to get into that tonight because Michael has a lot to say about it, And we're going to play a little bit of the trailer from The Big Short because, folks, this impacts you and me. And I'm not going to give financial advice. I give financial opinion. But we got a lot going on, including $6 billion reportedly being parked onto the side. Again, additional, he's been doing it for a while, by Warren Buffett. What's he see coming? And then we're going to talk about the tariffs, because President Trump put out a very interesting social media post today about paying back $3 trillion and basically insurmountable. It would be a national security event if the Supreme Court rules the wrong way. Wait a minute. Yesterday he was telling Laura Ingraham we got the best economy ever. Now he puts out today that we could be headed for a national security event. If we have to pay back $3 trillion, it could be unsurmountable. I'm getting dizzy here. But how does all this play into The Big Short? Now, if you have not seen the movie, and I'm not endorsing the movie, I'm not telling you to go watch the movie. I'm sure the language in it is pretty tough. But you can certainly watch clips of it on social media, Twitter, YouTube. But it's a real life story. And apparently some of the players that were in that movie that knew and saw the signs of the big crash and shorted it and apparently made a lot of money doing it are seeing something coming. And we're going to talk about this one, the $300,000 trap. America just walked into history's largest wealth illusion, the $300,000 trap. And then we're going to bring in Michael Weiner and ask Michael Weiner what he thinks, because he's been around for so many years to watch a lot of this. What does he think about all this? And how might you, I don't know, do something that could help save all your wealth or a big percentage of it, what you've worked for so long, and many are getting up there in years and don't have time to go rebuild. Again, I don't give financial advice, I give financial opinion. But Michael will sound off. And then what about I got to bring Anni back. I got to bring Anni back because of this story that I saw today. It was over at Zero Hedge. Syria signs declaration to join U.S.-led coalition to defeat ISIS terrorist group. Wait a minute. We're going to work with a jihadi to defeat jihadis? I don't know how that works. And then a clip of Giuliani on Fox News yesterday. He was asked, do you regret 9/11? How do you think he answered? I think there's some parsing of words there. He says he feels bad for the civilians. Is that a parsing of words in the Quran? What did Annie hear? Because she studied that full interview today, and she's going to talk to us about it tonight. So she has to come back to deal with that. And we'll play some other video clips along the way. So it's a big show. We're going to be covering things a lot of people are not covering. I'll tell you that's for sure. So tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social. Let everybody know. As you know, we're brought to you by you through our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. worldviewfoundation.com. Don't forget about going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors as we get started tonight. You know I take Bella Grace each and every day. 3 powerful ingredients. Look, my hands are not cracking and bleeding. They haven't cracked and bled now in so long, and I'm so thankful for that. Nice, healthy hands that don't crack and bleed. And that's because apparently I had a leaky gut. And when you get a leaky gut, then you end up with psoriasis. I couldn't stop it. I had it for years. That is on a good day. There you go. Sorry, Logan. That was on a good day. Okay. But then I got on Bella Grace and my hands healed up because apparently my leaky gut healed up. And then I got this amazing hair growth going. And I know that's due to the collagen. And I got a family member in their 80s who's gotten on this and they got hair growth going now in their 80s. I haven't had to take a Pepcid since December 2023. There's so many benefits to this. There is the astaxanthin that takes on the free radicals. I can't say enough about it. It's amazing. 80 clinical trials behind it. Then, of course, if you go to melissahousebg.com, there's the Bella Melt. The Bella Melt, which we heard Dr. Bashima talk about why she likes the Bella Melt that Bella Grace is putting out and the benefits when it comes to your heart health and so much more. So check it out. Maybe buy a subscription for somebody for Christmas, okay? melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. I do this each and every day. And this here, folks, this here is Swish for Life. That's loaded with glutathione to detox your cells. Detox your cells. Glutathione. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And then, of course, you know I do the Galatana every day. I take a half a scoop. That is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Dolly, she gets I said your name. She gets a half a scoop on her food. I take a full scoop and mix it in water every day. Feeds you your cells down to the mitochondria level to boost your own immune system so that your own body can fight off all the bad stuff. And you guys remember the guy that came up with this got a terminal diagnosis. And he started eating this paste and he ended up living another 10 years, even though he was given a fatal diagnosis. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you the truth. melissahousegpa.com. The 3 things I do every day: Bella Grace, Numi, and Galatana. You'll find them all also at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Don't forget about Worldview Talk. These make great Christmas gifts. Particularly for guys. Most guys love devices, technology, being prepared. A lot of guys like being prepared. You know, they want to provide for their family and they feel better when they know that they have things like, solar generators, satellite phones. So I'm guaranteeing you, most guys, if they got a satellite phone from you would say, that's pretty cool. I always wanted a satellite phone. Well, I like my satellite phone. I think it's pretty cool because I've actually been into areas where I've had no cell coverage. Actually, a year ago this summer, went somewhere for the weekend, virtually no cell coverage. Thankfully, I brought along my satellite phone. You can get a satellite pretty much anywhere. Just walk outside, turn it on, fire satellite, dial the number, hit the green button. Hello. But the cell towers go down. You'll be really happy you have one of these. Power grid goes down. Cell towers go down. You're going to have one of these. Satellites, they'll work. So again, you can get that at worldviewtalk.com. Also, the solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400. I highly recommend one of those. And you can get that at worldviewtalk.com. Or you can call the number and they'll answer your questions. 1-866-738-3224. You can get the Bivy. That allows you to sync your cell phone to the Bivy and use your cell phone to compose. Use your cell phone to compose the email or the text and then send it through the Bivy. Okay, that goes through a satellite, comes down to your family member who has the Bivy on the other end. You can also text off the satellite phone, by the way. So anyway, all that is at worldviewtalk.com. The bulletproof backpacks, the EMF blankets that knock down the EMF, the beanies, all of it, worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Don't forget about the medical kits. I saw a big order come in last night for the medical kits. Yes, and I travel with these whenever we travel. I have several of these because I am not going to be sitting here dying of something that could, like pneumonia or something, if I just had the antibiotic. But hey, the whole system's collapsed. The power grid's down. We're not getting delivery. Hey, we've gone to war with China over Taiwan. They're not sending us antibiotics anymore. I mean, we're very dependent on China in so many ways. So I would definitely stock up on this stuff because I do. And you'll find it all there. Plus, they also have a lot of great supplements at worldviewhealthcare.com, worldviewhealthcare.com. You can get their wellness plan, which includes free prescriptions, pharmacy coaching, then one that has free prescription, pharmacy coaching, and actually free supplements, okay? You can check it all out, the different plans, at worldviewhealthcare.com, worldviewhealthcare.com. Okay? Is that it? That's pretty much, Worldview Gold. We'll get into that a little bit later, but check it all out at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, guys, let's get going. All right, guys, Mitch Vexler is back with mockingbirdproperties.com. And then there's an extension after that if you want to get to all his research. We're going to put it up on the lower third. He's back because we got a great response to his being with us. But I also was watching some of the clips from a movie I had never seen called The Big Short. I had never seen it. And I guess it came out in 2015 about the housing crisis of 2007, 2008, and the collapse of like Lehman Brothers and other things. And wow, it was very scary because I think we're setting up for that again, but this time much worse. And yet at that time, I think it was like 6 million people lost their homes, not to mention all the jobs that were lost. He joins us again tonight before I go to some very shocking clips and shocking information because the guy behind that, he is now shorting NVIDIA and I think Palantir and other things, claiming we're in a huge AI bubble. Are we about to see the destruction of your 401k? Are we about to see the devaluation of your retirement account? Joining me now is Mitch Vexler. Mitch, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me back.
I want to go to this trailer of The Big Short. And I want you to look at this trailer and then maybe talk a little bit how much the problem is from then to now, because it's much, much, much bigger, obviously. And then we'll talk about the guy that was behind it, one of the guys in this film who's now shorting some of the AI stocks. And I got some screenshots to show on that. But first, here is the trailer from The Big Short, and we'll have Mitch respond to that. Here we go.
Michael, how are you?
I found something really interesting.
The whole housing market is propped up on these bad loans. They will fail.
The housing market is rock solid.
It's a time bomb.
So Mike Burry, who gets his hair cut at Supercuts and doesn't wear shoes, knows more than Alan Greenspan.
Dr. Mike Burry, yes, he does.
You know what? I'm off. American people are getting the big banks. And I am getting madder and madder.
It's unbelievable.
Then this guy walks into my office and says,
there's some shady stuff going down.
All the banks were having a big old party. A few outsiders saw what no one else could. The whole world economy might collapse.
I'm sure the world's banks have more incentives than greed.
you're wrong.
No one's paying attention.
The banks got greedy, and we can profit off of their stupidity.
You want to bet against the banks?
I think we're either high or having a stroke. Kind of brilliant.
Fraud has never, ever worked. Eventually, things go south. When the hell do we forget all that?
How can the banks let this happen? It's fueled by stupidity.
But that's not stupidity, that's fraud.
Tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested.
You have any idea what you just did? You just bet against the American economy.
If you're wrong, you can lose it all.
banks and defrauded the American people. Now we can kick them in the teeth.
Okay, here we go.
You target strippers.
With bad loans.
No cash rich.
Not going to be able to refinance.
On all my loans,
What do you mean, all your loans?
I have 5 houses and a condo.
All right. So, how much worse is it now than it was then in that portrayed in that movie, which was based on real life?
Well, look at it this way. Those particular investors went out and bought, those people who were shorting the market, they bought what's called credit default swaps against those who were long the market. Those who were long lost. This time, the credit default swaps probably won't pay off. And the reason they won't pay off is that the fraud that has occurred, both created by the school districts and allowed to fester. So the school districts own the central appraisal districts. That's how it is. They own the central appraisal districts. The problem is, if you go out and
the audience understands that your school district creates the central appraisal district that appraises your home at the value they need it to be to tax you at the rate they need to have you taxed to give the money to the school district that the school district's asking. So again, understand, the school district creates the central appraisal district that gives the school district the number and the money and the valuation they want to get the money they want. So in that way, it is rigged, right?
No, it's fraud.
Yeah, fraud.
I mean, it's just straight up fraud. So when you realize and you start connecting the dots, well, who's involved in this? You have bond underwriters. You have credit rating agencies. Now, remember that word from 2007? How many of them, the rating agencies, got it wrong? Well, they're wrong now. I wrote a document about 3 weeks ago. It's on my website, using the math from the credit rating agencies themselves to prove that these bonds that are out there are in truth sub-junk. It's worse than junk bonds. This can't be paid off.
Okay, let me stop right there. Wasn't that one of the things we found out in 2008, as you mentioned, that the credit ratings, they were giving ratings and they knew these were not good ratings, but wasn't the line basically, if we don't give them what they'll want, they're going to go down the street to our competitor?
Yes. And that is where you are right now today. This is deja vu all over again, except the magnitude of this is so much larger and so much more dangerous. The credit default swaps, like if you could get them today, and I'm not even sure you could, but if you could, they won't pay off. They shouldn't pay off. And that's part of the derivatives. Now you're going to say, well, why shouldn't they pay off? Because it's fraud. What you had before had never touched the world in 2007, where you get into a loan with no income verification. First time the world had ever seen that. But what you're now looking at, you're staring down the barrel of a 4-barreled shotgun, and every barrel is enough to knock you out. That's the problem here. You've got so many elements inside of these. Even if you could get the credit default swaps, they're going to say, well, we're not going to pay off because the system itself has caused the fraud. Well, then you turn around and say, who's the system? Who set this up? Well, clearly the central appraisal districts, which are owned by the school districts, is problem one. But problem two, the state's governments themselves, i.e. the state comptroller, the executive branch of these states, they're in this up to their eyeballs. They've been notified with formal criminal complaints against the people at the central appraisal districts who are caught on video. All this evidence is on my website. There's no way out of the evidence. Even the courts have admitted fraud has occurred. What they do is they don't want to talk about it. So they say, yeah, fraud has occurred, but you can't go any further past the appraisal review board. That's the final determiner of value. Yet the appraisal review board under law has no capacity to determine fraud. So to your point of the system being rigged, yeah. But what is a credit default swap? It's an insurance policy. When fraud enters the equation, the insurance policy 9 times out of 10 doesn't pay.
Right, because fraud cancels everything, invalidates everything. Yeah. Okay, so President Trump said this in his interview with Laura Ingraham last night. Here we go.
But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You know, you asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. You know, interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody that's...
And why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
Yet today, Logan, can you find it? Yet today he put out a True Social post that if the Supreme Court goes against me on tariffs, we're going to have to pay back $3 trillion. What? Where'd that number come from? And I mean, you have it, Logan? Because it's so shocking that the President of the United States would put that out. I thought it would rattle the markets more than it did today. But maybe people have gotten used to him saying things like, hey, it's the greatest economy ever. Energy is down. Did I just hear him say energy is down? No, all of our utility bills are up. What's he talking about? Here it is. The U.S. Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers. The unwind in the event of a negative decision on tariffs would be including investments to be made and return of funds in excess of $3 trillion. It would not be possible to ever make up for that kind of drubbing. That would truly become an insurmountable national security event and devastating to the future of our country, possibly non-sustainable, end quote. Have you ever seen a president put out a statement like that? I'm a little shocked that the markets don't seem to be too rattled by that today, but maybe they've grown immune to some of the comments that he makes. I mean, let me just take a look at gold real quick today. Gold is hovering around $4,130. Silver's at $51.30. What do you make of this? The economy's great, better than ever. And yet, the tweet today, the economy might collapse and it might be a major national security event. All within less than 24 hours of each other, the two?
Yeah. So what are we really dealing with here? Well, we're dealing with issues that are inconvenient for the government. I saw that clip on Laura Ingraham early this morning, and truthfully, he blew it. One must understand, and he punted on the question. I mean, he just didn't answer it. Laura Ingraham was right to ask the question, what is happening with the economy because people are suffering? And instead of answering the question the appropriate way, he just didn't answer it, and that's a problem. The economy can be bifurcated into different pieces. You can say that mom and pop is an economic element. Oil, be it energy costs, is an economic element. The stock market itself is an economic element. And all three of these elements can operate independent, they're non-correlated against each other. They can do that. They can also operate correlated. Well, to say that the polls are fake and what people are feeling and what people are suffering from economically denotes that that isn't real. And that's just dead nuts wrong. All you have to do is look at the government statistics itself and figure out how many foreclosures are occurring. Foreclosures are ramping up. How many evictions are occurring? I did this math just a couple of days ago, and there's margin of error in here, but give or take, with the evictions, you're going to end up in 8 million evictions within the next 24 months. Okay? So you can't say
I'm going to write that down, by the way. I'm going to write this down. 8 million evictions. And I'm going to write this down, and we're going to discuss it when it happens. Logan, you should tag this and put a note in your journal. 8 million evictions in the next 24 months, because we're going to come back to it. Because, you know, you're saying what's going to happen. Kind of like these guys on this Big Short movie where they knew what was going to happen. You know what's going to happen. 8 million evictions. And by the way, I don't know if there's a line in the movie where Brad Pitt says, with every 1% of unemployment, that equals 40,000 deaths. I think I heard that line. And I'm guessing that's because people commit suicide?
No, it's because they can't afford a roof over their head. We figured out about a year and a half ago that 37.8% of the household population is in harm's way of bankruptcy and or losing the roof over their head.
Okay, so when he said death, he was meaning financial death.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but that means they're evicted, right? You can't lose. If you're in an apartment, you get evicted. If you're in a house, you get foreclosed. But forget the percentage for a second. Put a hard number behind it. It's 42 million households across the United States. And isn't it interesting that the eviction notice, there was one called Clayton, Georgia. I saw it the other day. Lo and behold, 36%. That's within striking distance of my 38.7%.
yes, it sure is.
Right? And we have multiples all above 30%. That's happening now. So I want to come back to one other point you raised on President Trump when he says, well, we've got $20 trillion of income coming in as a result of the tariffs. Okay, fine. Except that he made a mistake, which was he should have explained how is that going to benefit mom and pop. So it's okay. In other words, he's doing what a developer should be doing, right? Which is, I've got a problem. I must increase top line revenue. It's clear as a bell. So he's increasing the top line revenue through the tariffs. Perfectly fine. The problem is we can't seem to get anybody to be paying attention to mom and pop over here. Here's the tariffs over here. Here's mom and pop. You've got to take these two sides and start squeezing and pushing towards the middle to fix these problems.
Because the tariff money right now is going to who? Who's getting it? The government? And then the government doesn't give it to the people or lower their taxes over it, right? As we were told, hey, we might do it with the IRS. That's what we were told when we were campaigning.
In theory, it would go to reduce the U.S. national debt. But you run into so many problems. The U.S. national debt is about $38 trillion, give or take. The deficit this year, or at the moment, I believe, is $1.9 trillion, which means they're short. Now, job one is try to balance that issue. However, you still have, give or take, $127 trillion worth of unfunded liabilities. And the problem with, be it a state government or a federal government, they don't want to admit mistakes. But as I keep saying, the math is so much bigger than the federal or state government. You're not going to have any choice in the matter. We're going to wake up one morning, the NASDAQ's going to be down 2,000 points, and everybody's going to be freaking out.
Yep. Worse
than what happened in 2007. But the evidence is in front of us. It exists now. So the idea that, well, we're the government, we're here to help you. No, you're not, because if you were, you'd be doing it.
Well, in fact, the Trump solution is a 50-year mortgage, which again, he seems to think there's a 40-year mortgage already. I've never heard of a 40-year mortgage. Is there a 40-year mortgage right now?
There is. It's done through HUD on the 221D4 program, but even that is a bunch of nonsense.
Okay. So, I didn't know there was a 40-year mortgage. He does, because he mentioned it. So Laura Ingraham pushed back against it.
50 years complete garbage.
All right, well, here he is. Here he is talking about it.
To the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30, that some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates, and I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months, fortunately. I have a guy too late, you know, Jerome Powell, we call him too late. He was too late in everything, except when it came to before the, you know, the so-called Democrat election, which didn't work. But we're going to get interest rates down. But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You know, you asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. You know, interest rates are down despite.
We're down on energy. That one is so wrong, particularly with all these AI data centers. I want you to comment on the idea of the 50-year mortgage. But before I do, look at this. My friend Mark Mitchell, the lead pollster at Rasmussen, put this out. The night of the fan mail, young man says, quote, I'll join the club here, completely done with MAGA and Trump. The federal government could freeze assets of illegals tomorrow and self-deportations would go through the roof. confiscate houses, cars, accounts, etc. ICE would need a fraction of the people if you did that. There is so much low-hanging fruit. Cancel H-1B. Stop with the 100,000 complex fee nonsense. Arrest a CEO or two for keeping their DEI department active and charge them with discrimination. All of this could be done within a week and would completely change course. I'm 28 years old, and all my conservative friends are done with Trump as well. Nobody's lives are any better. A complete unforced error. He almost died, and God saved him to give us 50-year mortgages. Where is Trump? Because this isn't him. Lots of young people having this reaction. They were very hopeful. Many of them were behind Trump when Elon was on board with Doge because they thought, hey, they're going to cut this bureaucracy. They're going to get rid of inflation. They're going to bring the interest rates down. They're going to get control of government and tax rates. And we're going to have the American dream back, and I can actually have a future. And now they're realizing, no, that's not happening. Here's your 50-year mortgage. Go be enslaved. What do you make of all this?
Bill Pulte, who is Pulte Holmes,
right,
his grandson, owes President Trump an apology. The White House should never have let President Trump put this issue into the public without this being thought through. The 50-year mortgage is utter nonsense, and here's why. It increases the total interest that you have to pay. It virtually doubles the value of the house that you're paying. The average homeowner here in Texas is 47 years of age. What's 47 and 50? 97. What are the odds of paying off the house? 0. Now, if you're a new home buyer and you're 30 years of age and you add a 50-year mortgage, what are the odds of paying off the house? 0. If you go to sell that house in 15 years, what's your equity buildup? 0. You seeing the picture here?
Mm-hmm. Does this fit the World Economic Forum? By 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy?
Well, congratulations. You now have the War of 1776. Mm-hmm. You have a civil war on your hands. You cannot steal money from people and say you get nothing and everything you're working for is for the benefit of the government. That is a violation of the U.S. Constitution and what all members of the military have fought for since the inception of the United States of America. Not acceptable.
Isn't that interesting? Because I had no idea you were going to say that, and you had no idea that I had this clip queued up ready to go. Because two people are on the same wavelength, Elon Musk and Mitch Vexler.
You get taxed on what you own, you get taxed on what you buy, and you get taxed on what you own. And it's like, okay, this is, you know, taxes, taxes, taxes. And, you know, and then what does it get spent on? A bunch of the stuff it gets spent on you don't even agree with. So, you know, that's why we need to reduce the size of government and just spend less money and, you know, let the people keep a lot more of their hard-earned money. You know, it's yeah. So.
And of course, if it's not taxes, 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 it's interest, 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 right?
The theory being that, okay, the banks are behind this. This is good for the banks. Yeah, no, it's not. Because your probability of default on a 50-year mortgage is exponentially higher than it is on a 30-year mortgage. Your probability of collecting the interest outstanding on something that A, will be foreclosed on, B, people can't afford the rent. Either way, you've got evictions and you've got foreclosures. Your probability of success at a bank is actually less because if you lose a house via foreclosure, as compared to the interest coming in, you, the bank, lose. This is a lose, lose, lose proposition. The banks won't make any money with it. It's complete nonsense. Somebody will tell you that they will, but they won't. The net result will be multiple foreclosures. And who's going to come in behind those people that lost the house and say, I'm going to repeat that same thing. Please give me that 50-year mortgage so I don't have any more money in my pocket. Mm. This is utter nonsense.
Are we headed toward being
owes an apology to President Trump.
Are we headed toward being a nation of renters?
No, you're not going to be able to afford a damn thing. This system is going to blow.
So you
either start admitting the fraud, or this system will break.
And I know you say it's happening now, right? I mean, all the signs are it's happening now. Does Trump get out of his presidency, or does this all collapse on his watch?
This system can be saved. That's what's so frustrating out of all
nobody's
of this.
doing it. They're not listening. They're not doing what you're suggesting. You laid it out with us with like an hour and a half a couple weeks ago. So I don't think they're going to fix it. I almost think they want it to collapse, and they can roll in digital IDs and get everybody where they want. You know, the old statement by the globalist James McGregor Burns in his book, 84, The Power to Lead. We can't get the American people to go where we want them to go unless we have a stupendous economic and financial crisis.
And if the politicians are pushing the system to the point that it breaks, that's with knowledge. That's with intent.
So you think they're going to intentionally collapse it on Trump? Because I think they are.
One would hope not. But the reality is that every day that goes by, see, you've got a compound cumulative interest problem here. Now, never mind the fraud, but your compound cumulative interest is growing by the nanosecond. Do you know that in the case of Denton Central Appraisal District, just as an example, our math shows that they're running a $20 million a month deficit. Now, we also figured out that if the property values drop by 20%, the deficit turns into just short of $1 billion a year.
And where is that? So, is that nationwide or just in Texas?
No, that's just in Denton. That's just in Denton County.
Whoa.
But you see,
one county.
Right. So one county. So that problem replicates itself, i.e. California, all the way throughout Texas. It doesn't matter where. It's the compound cumulative interest. And the only thing I can say to the politicians, it's the debt, stupid.
Wow.
This is the problem.
Well, maybe that's why they want the collapse. Hasn't Donald Trump in a past Truth Social hinted at the idea of just a default? We'll just wipe the books clean. Maybe they want a whole collapse and start over.
The problem is, now the United States has defaulted 6 times in its history, but the magnitude of a default of this caliber, which is so blatant that they screwed up, they allowed the fraud to fester. The courts allowed the fraud to fester knowingly. Well, if you're knowingly allowing this problem, what credibility could you possibly have in the future? And by the way, going into Bitcoin and saying we, the US government, are going to take a position in Bitcoin is the exact opposite of what Bitcoin was created to do, which is called decentralization. You don't want any government, including the French government, to have any portion of any of these type of cryptocurrencies. So the fact that the government's getting involved, I think that's going to save their neck. Not a chance. If they're going to default the system by intent, the bond market isn't going to be worth a damn on anything.
Look at this. This financial report that I follow. The median value of U.S. consumer stock market investment has surpassed $300,000 for the first time in history. Investments include single stocks, mutual funds, and retirement accounts such as 401ks and IRAs. This gentleman here, however you say his name, said, hey, this is the trap. America just walked into history's largest wealth illusion. The median U.S. household now holds $300,000 in stock for the first time ever. Tripled since April 2020, up $100,000 since March alone. Equities now represent 52% of all household financial assets, higher than 2000 dot-com peak that destroyed millions. This is not wealth. This is a coordinated illusion at civilization scale. Every grocery store clerk, teacher, and Uber driver is now on a margin call away from ruin. The entire middle class has now been converted into involuntary speculators. Their retirements, their children's future, their survival, all tethered to the same overvalued assets. The mathematics are terminal. When participation reaches maximum, buyers vanish. When allocation peaks, reversions begin. When everyone owns the same thing, liquidation becomes a synchronized chaos. 2029 taught us. 2000 reminded us. 2008 confirmed it. 2022 whispered it. 2025 will scream it. Valuations are historically extreme. Sentiment is dangerously euphoric. Concentration is catastrophically high. Margin debt remains elevated. Corporate buybacks artificially inflated prices. We'll get to that in a minute. Massive flows blindly chase indexes. Liquidity is phantom deep. The crowd believes this time is different. The crowd is always wrong at peaks. Real wages stagnated while asset prices exploded. Productivity flatlined while portfolios ballooned. The wealth is paper. The debt is real. The consequences are inevitable. What's next is not a correction. It's a reckoning. Those holding cash will inherit the future. Those holding conviction in overvalued narratives will learn what 50% down drawdowns feel like in retirement accounts. That means 50% of your retirement account gone. This is complete. This setup is complete. The players are positioned. The trap is set. History will mark this moment, not as prosperity's peak, but as the hour before the largest wealth transfer in modern history began. The question is no longer if, only when. Welcome to the golden age, Mitch.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that was just stated there, but it's worse. And the reason why it's worse is because
we need to have shirts printed, by the way, but it's worse, Mitch Vexler.
Yeah.
Because it always is, isn't it, Mitch?
Recognize who the bondholders are. See, most people don't understand that their money is in the bonds. When you have a 401k and you have a pension, and if you don't know where that money is specifically, you've got a problem. But a lot of this money is in the bonds. Well, what's backing the bonds? They would say mortgage-backed securities. We have houses, we have mortgages, we have this, we have that. Interesting. All real estate is local, local, local. So let's break this down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You have a property value, according to the Central Appraisal District, rise of 100% in 5 years, where there is no math on this planet, there is no law on this planet that can back that valuation up. That is pure fraud created by the Central Appraisal Districts on behalf of their owners, the school districts. Okay. Do you realize that in order to get back to a value just 5 years ago, your house value would have to go down by 50%? Now, ask yourself this. What are the value of the bonds outstanding today that are gathering compound cumulative interest, knowing full well that those bonds are going to get an automatic 50% haircut at a minimum? But it's worse, because the way that the compound cumulative interest works and the way that the market works, when you take a haircut like that, the pendulum swings so far to the left. What's the real value in order to pay those bonds off at any portion? Our math shows it's about 13 cents on the dollar. You see the problem?
Mm-hmm.
The compound cumulative interest of the outstanding interest on the fraudulent bonds cannot mathematically be paid off because there is no money at the median household income level to pay for this, but for hitting a target of value, give or take, around 13 cents on the dollar. And then it also is interesting to point out with regard to the defaults, well, when the federal government via the U.S. Treasury prints money, do you understand that's a default?
Right.
Printing money is counterfeiting, especially when it's not backed by an asset. We're just going to print it, and that creates inflation. Inflation is a hidden tax.
Yes.
And either way you look at this, it's the same thing at the federal government. The federal, through the U.S. Treasury, prints money. That's a fraud. What happens at the state level? Well, we're going to print money for the school districts because, as you said, it's for the children. Well, it's not. It's not going to the children. It's going to cover off pension funds, and it's going to cover off fraudulent bonds, both in terms of the outstanding fraudulent bond plus the outstanding interest on the fraudulent bond. The point of the matter is this is a state issue that's being duplicated at a federal level.
So
either way, this isn't going to end well.
What pops the balloon? I mean, here, take a look at this. This person put out there, the famous Big Short Michael Burry is back. He's the one that the movie's about, one of the guys that saw what was going to happen in the 2007, 2008 crash. He's heavily shorting NVIDIA and Palantir, the two best performing stocks of this decade. Will he be right again like in 2008, or is it different this time? I think here's another one. Supposedly, I don't know, is this true? He spent $1.1 billion on NVIDIA and Palantir puts. That's 80% of his entire portfolio. He's betting that the AI bubble will burst soon. Have you heard this? Is that true? Is he really doing that big?
It could be. I mean, he can swing that, and he can use margin. He can do all sorts of things. But I want to point something out. The market is the stock market. This is not mom and pop. Again, people have got to fix their terminology. There are elements inside of the markets. The stock market is just coming off of an all-time high, and it had a pretty big down day. But when that announcement first came out on Michael Burry, 2 days prior to that announcement with Travis, I literally said that I believe this market is way overextended. It's due for a pullback, and here's where it's going to go. It's going to hit this first level of support, then it's going to hit a second level of support, and it's going to do it fairly quickly. About 10 days before is when the 13F with Michael Burry came out, and it appeared that he was shorting NVIDIA. Well, NVIDIA and Palantir are components of the NASDAQ, and lo and behold, what happened? Well, market came down 10%, real hard, real fast. Isn't it interesting? It was literally on the heels of Burry's announcement. So he's looking at it, and by the way, so he can do this with options, but do you realize he can also trade futures? So if he did one of two things, let's go back 11 days ago, and he said, fine, I'm going to buy puts, straight out, naked puts. Okay, that's options. Then he could simply say, I'm going to take $100 million, and I'm going to go short the futures. So he has made a hellacious rate of return in about 10 days. And that type of money, because he knows what he's doing, he can trade it. Mom and pop are not Michael Burry. And when these people say, well, he's doing this and he's doing that, they haven't got a clue what he's really doing. That's what you see on the surface. You can't see what he's doing with the futures. So the point of the matter is he can trade it. How does mom and pop take advantage of this? Well, one of the biggest investors and the best investors on the planet is saying, I don't believe that AI is going to continue. And you look at the all-time high of the market, independent of looking at your neighbor and seeing the condition of your neighbor. How many people in your neighborhood are being foreclosed on or being evicted? So you have two bifurcated markets, independent markets, flashing red signals. So the only question is, can mom and pop protect themselves, and what can mom and pop do in order to understand what's happening? A, get educated about these issues, but B, protect yourself. Don't be jumping into markets you don't understand and can't control. And if you want to learn how to trade, that's great. But there's all these things you must do. Get involved with your school district. Start pushing the panic button with your chief appraisers and with regard to your school districts, your school superintendents, and saying, answer these questions. How much in fraudulent outstanding bond debt did you idiots run up? How much in interest did you run up? And if you don't like the answer, go and press charges against them, criminal charges. Get a handful of people together and sue the crap out of them. There are things you can do, but sitting still at this point isn't an option.
Are you going to release how the citizens, the viewers, can be involved in class action lawsuits? Or I thought that you were going to do that, right?
We're working very hard to get that model. It's a little more complicated, but we're trying very hard to get that model to work where we can help the attorneys across the United States format the class actions, and we can deliver hundreds of people per attorney to kick this into gear. We have the evidence on our website as to what it is in Denton County, but we've got evidence from across the United States, including from California themselves. So if we can figure out how to model it to get it to work smoothly, then we're going to do it. And yeah, we're working on that.
Good.
And the attorney in Washington is even working on a document to get it into the hands of the Supreme Courts through the justices across the United States.
What do you make of this? Warren Buffett's Berkshire quietly moved $6 billion off the table. That came out around the 7th of November.
Well, he's been going to cash for a long time. He's looking to shoot an elephant, basically. He's looking for some company that he can acquire cheaply. But he recognizes what the problem is. I mean, if you think about it, not that I'm Warren Buffett in scale or size or anything, but I can't build knowing what I know in this market. Because if I go to my investors and I say, yeah, let's go ahead and build multifamily at $305,000 a door for what it used to cost me, $185,000 a door at $305, that's the equivalent of $3,000 a month. I'm building into 70% credit risk.
Right.
So I took my cookies off the table. Well, what's Warren Buffett done? He took his cookies off the table.
So you're both waiting on the same thing, which is a massive correction.
There's no alternative. What are you going to do? You can't play in this market. This is suicide.
Do you feel your money is safe in the bank, sitting on the sideline?
Who said I've got money in the bank?
Are you worried about a bail-in this time instead of a bailout?
Horribly, because the government allowed that to happen.
What does that look like?
Greece, that became deja vu.
Thank you.
I believe that law was passed. Yeah. 18 months ago, the U.S. government passed a law that said the banks can take your money and do a bail-in. You know, obviously, we have enough emergency cash on hand to sustain us for several months. You know, I've got staff to pay, et cetera. But having cash reserves in a bank is nuts. Now, Warren Buffett, you know, he's got treasuries, he's got all sorts of stuff. Because of his size, they won't jack him around. But a small guy like me, they can jack us around. They can take the money. Now, what are you going to do? Oh, we're going to hand you back shares in our defunct bank? No, thank you. I'll pass.
So bail-ins, what does that look like for the average person watching tonight?
If you don't have 3 months or 4 months of emergency cash, and I mean cash, outside of the bank, go bury it in your backyard as far as I'm concerned. You're wrong. Everybody should have some money in their pocket in case of an emergency. What are you going to do if these bank runs start up? You think Jerome Powell's going to be able to stop that? Not a chance. You get another bank that goes down like the bank in California, you're not going to be able to stop that. That'll be a full-blown panic. Why would you put yourself in harm's way? Just be smart about these things. Realize that the government has blown this so badly with regard to the inflation and what they're causing people to have to pay. We did a short segment earlier this morning on hamburgers. So a guy comes out, this is on a McDonald's issue. So do you realize several years ago, well, the guy was a kid, so let's call it 15 years ago, he was able to buy a hamburger at $1.50. You know what it is right now today? 12. Did the median household income go up pari passu with that? Not a chance. Not even close.
So you're saying if you go to the average hamburger joint and order a meal, it's $12?
No, order a hamburger. It's $12, right? Wendy's is having problems right now. Wendy's is downsizing. McDonald's came out yesterday saying we've got problems with our guests. They're not able to pay. We're having to boost the I think they call it a Happy Meal, right? So they're having to boost the cost of a Happy Meal. These things are ramifications of the inflation. Look at it this way. Mom and pop, a house, is just like a business. It has operating expenses. If the income isn't there to cover those operating expenses, that's no different than certain Wendy's having to close down because they don't have the income in those particular restaurants to carry those operating expenses. What's the definition of that? Liabilities greater than assets, bankruptcy. That's the definition. So these corporations are being hit and smacked around just as hard as mom and pop. The difference is that mom and pop don't have other restaurants to help offset the damages. They only have the household. And when you strip their ability and lower their median household income, you're culpable in creating the fraud that took them down.
And so how does this end? How do you see this? I mean, what are you expecting to wake up to one day? The news that the markets crash, that is it going to be some major bank that collapses due to derivatives and all this bad junk? What do you think is it that tips it over? What is the starting of this implosion that then is off to the races and starts being something that's got contagion on it and spreads across the country and the world? What is the event?
There are geopolitical problems. There are state problems. There are federal problems. There are so many canaries in the coal mine gasping for air. I don't know which one is going to die first, but I guarantee you they're going to die. That's just the way the math is. You can't get around this math.
And what time frame are you thinking? In the next 12 months? It's already started. So are we going to see this in 20? I told my team that I've been quietly cutting costs left and right for the last 12 months. Cutting costs everywhere we can, constantly, left and right, looking for everywhere we can cut cost to cut. And so far, we've cut several $1,000s out of our budget. Now, we had to spend some money to up the technology so that we're not paying a huge company for the technology that we can eventually do ourselves much cheaper, but we had to invest the money to build the server racks and the servers and everything we need to have done to keep the network going. So I had to put some, got to spend money sometimes to save money. So we spent some money over the last year, but it's ended up saving several thousand. And then we, as I said, went through all of our budgets the last 12 months and cut several $1,000s a month out of our budgets as a network so that we can stay afloat when others go under. We're also debt-free, thankfully. But we have to keep that cash flow going. even though we're debt-free. Thankfully, we don't have any debt to service, but we've got to keep the cash flow going to keep the network afloat. But we are cutting our costs and have, as I said, for the last year, drastically. Now, the issue is, at what point do you think the average person in their business and their home can't do that? And so how does this end? Is this something, because I'm telling my group, I think 2026 is going to be a tough year. I don't know. It's just in my gut. And I just told him again last night in a meeting, 2020 and our IT guy this morning, 2026, I think is going to be a tough year financially. Agree or disagree?
Yes, and it's happening as we speak. So I have a friend who is a world-renowned chef. They have 2,800 employees. And what's going to happen if the healthcare cost for those employees goes up 4 times? He's going to lose employees because at that point, why are they working? They don't have any money in their pocket. There's no reason to work. They can't afford the healthcare. Now what? So even on that level, that's another canary in the coal mine just sitting there. There's no answer for it as we sit here and speak right now. I mean, the governments are chit-chatting, but nobody knows what that solution is going to be. Well, that's a lot of employees. Then you look at the inflation in the market. Those restaurants used to generate about 28% EBITDA. Now, not that I'm a believer in EBITDA, but that's just go with it for a second. Right now, today, they're hovering around 9. If they didn't own the real estate, they'd already be done. The fact that they own the real estate, no debt, is what has been able to sustain them. That's 2,800 employees sitting there. They're dancing on a razor blade. In my own building, so I've got restaurants in my own building, I'm very concerned about that. So just like you, I've been cutting costs really for the last 18 months. Easy. Cut costs. The one place I didn't cut the costs, the building needed some repairs. It's always minor because these are Class A, it's Class A building. But nonetheless, it had to be done because I have to do what I have to do to keep my tenants in place. Otherwise, I've got vacancy. I can't have vacancy. That's not acceptable. And this is a very nice area that building happens to be in. But just like you, I have to cut the costs because I have to ensure that those tenants stay there. It's not an option. You spend the money where you have to spend it, but all these other people that are levered, think of that. Think of how bad it is in a house. You're levered up. You bought a house in the last 24 months that in truth is worth 50 cents on the dollar less than you paid for it. Just to get back to the value where it was 5 years ago. You bought into a fraudulently induced market. You are going to get hurt. That's the problem.
Look at this. Now, I think this is true, right? NVIDIA is paying to buy its own chips. $7 trillion in fake demand could trigger U.S. recession. Here's how to protect your family. Do you know anything about that story? Is that true?
Yes. So what you have is a very incestuous relationship between NVIDIA and Planeteer and Oracle. And I saw a graph on it, which is pretty good, but what it's really called is a kite. They're kiting money from one company to another because they all use component parts from each other. Their technologies depend on the chips. Well, you can do accounting tricks when you have that type of setup, which is basically what they're doing. Now, eventually the IRS will get involved and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they'll haggle that out for the next 3 or 4 years. But the bottom line is their valuations are what they're doing. Your stock valuation goes up based on its revenue stream. Doesn't really discuss what the expense factors are, and therein lies a bit of a problem. It's an accounting trick to boost the share value. Why? More than likely because the CEO is getting a percentage of the increase in the share value. There's your answer.
And here is another lady put out there on social media. Do you agree with this? Michael Burry is the investor who correctly called the housing crisis The Big Short. Was about him. To explain why Burry is saying here, when the companies announce earnings, they do not announce revenues or profits. They also have to subtract the depreciation and amortization of their assets, meaning what they own that has lost value over the previous 3 months or a year because it's old or outdated. Burry is saying that tech companies are making their earnings look bigger by refusing to subtract the depreciation of their assets correctly. For instance, the chips used in AI are good for about 2 years. Then inevitably they lose value because faster chips get invented. the way tech giants are accounting for their giant chip purchases, they're saying that those chips will last double or triple the time, 4 years or even 6 years, according to the chart below. This means that tech giants are subtracting less risk from aging chips to make it look like they're keeping more of their revenues over time. That misstates their financial position and misleads investors. It's a big allegation because these companies are spending billions of dollars on these chips. You think that's true?
Yes. Yep. It's an accounting trick. It's exactly what they're doing.
Is there anything that isn't an illusion? Is there anything that isn't based on not reality? I mean, that's the one thing we've believed for a while, but we've become more aggressive in my mindset that so much of what we look at is not reality. I'll close with this. You have a new article out you sent me. Let's see here. It's for the kids, dated 11/25. You'll find it on his website. Tell me about that, and then one more before we close.
That was a document I was referring to from the California Process Center. So what I did is I supplanted the word Texas for California. And that document from California, because I knew people wouldn't read 320 some odd pages. But here's the point. They created advertising and said, we're doing this for the kids. It's the same advertising, the same process, the same method that California has used for generations, in reality, all the way back to 2000. Texas followed it verbatim. Both states use what's called capital appreciation bonds or zero coupon bonds that now cannot be paid off. There's no math. You can't get blood out of a stone. The median household income doesn't exist. The property values are completely fake. This will blow. So I created that document because even the California Process Center itself used the word toxic. The capital appreciation bonds, in case of Texas, zero coupon bonds, are toxic. They can't be paid off. So that document outlines the processes that were used by California, which are the same processes in advertising, conning the people, lying to the people, that Texas has used and that California, for the most part, invented. And then one other thing, with regard to Michael Burry and his statement about, well, they're not using the appropriate depreciation schedules. Again, it's worse, because what else is not being done properly within those organizations, because they've got this kite of money going between them. So they push the values to make the stock market look like the stock market, NASDAQ in particular, is going up. So NASDAQ keeps hitting all-time highs, but for the pullback in the last 10 days, and it may go back up and touch it again before the whole thing blows to shreds. That's what the market does. It's called a double top. If it hits that double top, look out below. However, that's the stock market, NASDAQ market, the NASDAQ index, independent of the bonds that touch the lives of every property owner. The bonds are where the big money is. That's where the real problem is going to occur.
And then you had an article on not only is the equity in your home being stripped from you while you sleep, so are your constitutional rights. This should concern every property owner and every single citizen, because you're paying for it regardless of what state you live in. As goes California, New York, so goes Texas. As goes Texas, so goes the United States of America. That is also at your website too, mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. So as we wrap, let's give some action points. I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. I can't give financial advice for legal reasons. So there you go with that disclaimer. What do you think people should be doing, the average person watching tonight? How can they prepare, or what should they be doing to protect themselves, in your opinion?
One of the things that we've been hammering on is get educated. You don't have to believe us. You don't have to trust us. I wouldn't even want you to. I want you to go and study. You can go to my website. You can look at it. Learning what's happening is crucial. Whatever source you get it from, it's crucial. Sitting still and saying, well, woe is me, isn't going to work. You've got children. You owe it to your child, to your children. You owe it to your neighbors to get involved with your central appraisal district and find out what's going on with regard to the real estate taxes. We do what we can in life to achieve whatever it is that we're trying to achieve, right? If you're doing what you're doing for your child, you're going to work to get money to keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table. That's what you do. However, your children have a life, and the people that are teaching your children, the education system is failing. We just found out recently that in the case of Richardson, Texas, they passed a $1.5 billion bond, yet they've got admitted 9,000 student shrinking population in a system that, from an education standpoint, has failed. The Texas Education Agency themselves has taken over the school district in Fort Worth. So the Fort Worth ISD has now been taken over as of about a week ago due to failing grades. We have been successful, extraordinarily successful. It's never been done that we know of in the history of Texas, but we got involved in a Facebook account, and we were allowed to take that over, Travis did, through the administrative process of that Facebook account. And in a very short period of time, all the bonds that were requested by the school districts were denied. Explained it to mom and pop. So that's local. Well, if you can find a local Facebook account, a local Facebook group where people are upset about these property taxes, you now have the nucleus to start destroying the school systems. You must get rid of these bonds. It's not an option. No school district in the United States should ever have access to the bond market again in history. They have blown this so badly, it can never be allowed to happen. That's where you have to get involved. Mom and pop cannot sit there anymore and say somebody else is going to pick up the ball. We have the proof of concept. We did it in a very short period of time. This was less than 60 days. We turned around what was going to be for the school district a slam dunk. We got the bonds. By the way, they spent $130,000. We spent nothing. I didn't write a 10-cent check, nothing. A handful of people. They simply got together and said, let us use your Facebook account. Give us administrative privileges. We'll take it from there. So we had one fella, ex-military, who looked at things from a legislative standpoint, which was great. And then we had Travis pushing the buttons and me in the background pushing Travis. So just a handful of people. We had a person her name is Kayla. She was a member of the school district board. And we got her on videotape. We've got video testimony that's already been handed off to the Washington Council. So a very short period of time, we destroyed their ability to raise bonds. They dropped 130 grand. We dropped zero. This is the power of mom and pop.
So you stopped them from being able to put out more what you would deem as fraudulent bonds. They can't keep doing this. You stopped them.
100%. Wow. Straight across the board. Everything in Johnson County went down to zero. They couldn't raise a bond. So it can be done, but it has to be done at a local level. It's like saying, well, the Texas legislature is going to do this for us. Well, it turns out, and that's the point that was being made by the ex-military person who's a member of the group. And he said, legislatively speaking, do you realize they can float every bill that they want, including the one that I wrote for Helen Kerwin? But the Speaker of the House has the ability to deny that bill from ever coming to the floor. So they can run around like chickens with their head cut off. We're going to do this bill, this bill, this bill. And by the way, there was over 6,000 bills created. They can't even read that amount of bills. Therefore, nothing happens in the Texas legislature. And I'm working on a document right now. Leslie's reviewing it as we speak. But in that document, I'm going after Governor Abbott. And he's going to win this upcoming election. And I'm admitting that. But here's the point. He put out something called, we're going to empower Texas taxpayers. And it was 6 bullet points. And I took every single one of those bullet points and called BS on every one of them, because not one of them is true, which means, Governor, you were the Attorney General in the year 2002. What have you done as the Attorney General? You keep saying we're going to eliminate the property tax. First of all, it's a half-baked statement. It isn't true. You have to replace it with something, which is the sales tax, which is in the bill that I wrote for Helen Kerwin. Second of all these other elements that he came up with simply are not true, which indicate you're doing the same thing. You're going to pass this buck down the road, at least in your mind, till the next governor shows up and it'll fall apart under his watch. The problem is, Governor, it's falling apart now. When you've got this amount of ramp up of evictions, this amount of ramp up of foreclosures, sorry, this is on your watch. The school districts, the vast majority of them that have access to the bond market, are bankrupt. And the Texas Bond Guarantee Program is insolvent. Governor, this is your legacy. That's the point.
Wow. Check it out. All of it, folks, right here. Mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. Mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. I was only intending to keep him 30 minutes, folks, but man, he is such a wealth of information. And this is coming fast, folks. And you can see all the signs. We've laid them out tonight. You better be earnest and you better be smart, because a lot of folks are going to get hurt. Do what you can. Get out of harm's way. The train is coming down the track. Again, mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. Mitch, thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you very much for your time. For those who are interested, go to my website. You can search the word articles, and that'll take you down to that section that he was just referring to. And that website is searchable. So if there's a keyword you're interested in, just type it in, and whatever we've got on the site will pop up.
Excellent. Do it, folks. Pass it around. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, get it, Truth Social, whatever you do. Spread this around. We got to wake up the American people. Wow. Thank you, Mitch. All right, guys.
Great. Thank you very much.
We'll be right back after this short break.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brannon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private. So you people out there who are sitting on your hands when Wes and I are sending you these requests and Brannon and you are talking to you, you better get active, because you're going to pay me $4,000 an ounce the end of the year. Trust me.
You better get your. I highly suggest you get your free packet. You don't have to do anything. It's free, no obligation. Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com, or just text Wes and give him your name and address and say, I want the free packet. That's all you got to do. 602-558-8585. 602-558-8585. Joining me now is Michael Weiner. I want Michael to respond to the interview I just had with Mitch Vexler, and let's get a feel for where things are going. I want to put that tweet back up there by President Trump, Logan. This was the shocker today. You know, he was busy telling Megyn Kelly 24 hours ago, less than 24 hours ago, about 24 hours ago right now, that we got the best economy ever. Energy prices are coming down. No, I don't see that. He talked about how great things are. Well, then he put this out today. I want Michael Weiner to respond to this, as well as some of the things that Mitch and I were just talking about. Here again is what President Trump put out today. The U.S. Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers. The unwind in the event of a negative decision on tariffs would be including investments made and return of funds in excess of $3 trillion. It would not be possible to ever make up that kind of a drubbing. That would truly become an insurmountable national security event and devastating to the future of our country, possibly non-sustainable. Michael, welcome back to the broadcast. What do you make of that? Have you ever seen a president put out that, you know, we can't pay back this $3 trillion. It'll be a major national security event, unsurmountable. I mean, have you ever seen that? I mean, isn't that almost reckless for a president to put out? Does he think that somehow is going to persuade the Supreme Court to rule the right way on tariffs?
Well, I think there's part of it that's over dramatic. I do think that. I think Trump, you know, literally inherited a lot of garbage when he got into office, and some of it literally is going off too well. I think I said in a show a long time ago when these tariffs started that the first time Trump was in office and he pulled tariffs off, he caught everybody off guard. Mexico, Canada, people couldn't make deals fast enough because he caught them off guard, literally. But this time they were ready. There was conversations throughout the election about tariffs. All these countries were not rolling over, and legitimately it dragged on, and that caused problems within the economy. Right now, I think that you know, what he's saying right now is trying to salvage what he thinks might be a devastation that, and I agree with him in what he's saying in some respect, that, you know, this should have been thought out a lot better. because if in fact they get away with it, it is true. There's a lot of factors to look at here. It's like your last guest said. I mean, first of all, the debt that we will have will be insurmountable. It's overwhelming, and adding to that debt immediately, as well as finding a way to give that money back. We have to give that money back. The only two ways to do it is to print money, which is inflationary, destroying the dollar, or secondarily, to turn around and sell bonds, which who the heck is going to want to buy them? I mean, go sell them. Good luck. There's a lot of major problems here. That's what we're going into. This is a dilemma. It's not a good one. I think that there's been a lot of overdrama. I think that what the president has to look at is not what's going to be great, and I think some of the things he did, and we both like Trump, but are going to happen a year from now. We need to know about things now, right now.
I'm preparing for 2026, and I have been preparing for more than a year. Actually, I've been preparing since about 1992. I read the book by Logan. Look up what year The Economic Earthquake by Larry Burkett was written. Look that up, please. The Economic Earthquake. What year was that written? The Economic Earthquake by Larry Burkett. Because that's the book I read. And that's the book that set me on a path of being one that hates debt. And praise the Lord, our organization, organization media outlet here is debt-free. 1991. That's about what I thought. I got married. I married your mother in February of 91. And I bought my first precious metals in about February of 1993. And I read that book, and I'm thinking I probably read it in 92. Because in 93 is when I bought my first precious metals. And I really, after reading that book by Larry Burkett, started reading everything I could on the economy collapsing. And 1929 and the Weimar Republic in Germany and all that. And it changed my life. And I hate debt. And praise the Lord, because of the fact our organization is debt-free, we're not servicing debt and interest. Now, we have to generate cash flow to keep everybody paid and all the bandwidth bill and IT bills and insurance and the utility bills to keep all the servers cool 24/7. But if I was servicing debt, probably wouldn't make it. And a lot of groups aren't going to make it. And Worldview Tube will be around when a lot of the others are gone under. But I've been preparing for since 92 for what's coming. But I've been preparing for the last year or two aggressively at cutting costs anywhere I can, including, as I said during that last interview, even to be spending some money to build our own server systems so that we can dump paying another company to do it. We'll do it ourselves. And we've cut several $1,000s a month out of our budgets. But we need that savings to offset other things that are going up, like our utility bills, our ACs, and insurance, and all this other stuff, right? So the point I'm at is I think 2026 could be a tough year. And Mitch is saying it's all unwinding now. I think this whole thing may collapse on Trump's watch. And it could be derivatives that the banks are holding. It could be these fraudulent school bonds that his buddy says is not 5.1 trillion, it's over 17 trillion. It could be the AI bubble, and now we see that the guy from The Big Short, Michael Burry, is shorting the market on that. I guess. I mean, it could be war. Look at World War III, which that could be used to cover a lot of this in Europe or America. This guy writes, "Watching The Big Short in 2025 is deja vu." The 2008 housing bubble feels eerily relevant with today's sky-high stock and housing valuations. In 2008, the crisis stemmed from a massively overvalued housing market fueled by risky subprime loans, tax regulation, and greed. Banks bundled junk mortgages into safe securities, creating the massive housing bubble. Nothing has really changed. It's just a facade. Today, the Fed is warning about over-leveraged hedge funds. Michael Burry is betting on Palantir dropping in price with puts worth nearly $1 billion, 66% of his firm's AUM. Stocks are screaming overvalued in every way. The S&P 500 is 63% above long-term trend. The Warren Buffett indicator is at a record 217% plus. Goldman and Morgan Stanley predict 20% correction soon. Housing is bubbly and overvalued from 2020 free money, low interest rates, and bidding wars. Sales are crashing while prices stall. Experts call the market frozen with subdued growth, not as leveraged as 08, but affordability's tanked with higher rates. Speculative bubbles, AI tech stocks now versus housing then. Many experts warning of crash with scary similarities. Fed stopping QT and beginning easing amid softening economy. 1 million plus fewer jobs created in 24 than stated by the Biden administration's previous 2024's fake numbers. Falling new job numbers for 2025. Growing repo market, borrowing from the desperate banks again. Volatility rising on potential meltdowns. 2025's mess is more driven by toxic derivatives in the stock market, lax regulation, and greed. It's just a different flavor of 2008. Michael?
Well, you know, Brandon, we went over some of this over a year ago. We talked about derivatives. I said directly that the derivative market is so oversold worldwide at all these banks that if it goes down, it could create a world economic depression. We talked about that. We talked about the fact of getting pressed, just as your former guest stated. What's going on here? We talked about the fact that the stock market is oversold, that it's been a heyday for way too long, and it's way oversold, way overpriced. And we constantly go against the situation of people telling us, well, you know, as we do, we're going to go talk to our financial guy and gal, and they're going to give us. I'm going to tell you, when 90% of the worldview people told us in 2009 and 10, and a lot of your friends that we had to help, I said this to them. They said this to me almost verbatim. I said, how hard was it to get in touch with your financial person when the market was collapsing? It was impossible. By the time I got through to him, I had already lost 30 to 40% of my money. And I said, here's exactly what he told you. And they said, what's that? And I said, hang on, it's going to come back. The question is, what if it doesn't? Money markets, the funds will not come back. Funds do not come back. You don't own a stock. Misconception, you don't own a stock. And additionally, to the people out there who consider themselves debt-free but derive most of their income from stocks and all the rest of it that they have coming in. When you talk about rental property for any person, they're a good investment, okay, because it's deriving income to you. But the biggest problem that every person has is, first of all, owning something that they control, that they can get liquid in without question, but more importantly, understanding the fact that if most of their money is tied into these financial advisory positions and the market collapses in 1933, people did not have mortgages on their homes. People had no mortgages. People didn't have debt. There was no credit cards. You paid for what you got. Why did people not have the money to pay for their homes? Why did they lose their homes? Because they were all crazily in the market, and by the time they could try to get to their money, they couldn't, and they lost their homes, and they moved into the parks and everywhere else in the city. You've got to understand right now, we warn people, we tell people what's going to be happening. You've got to be able to balance yourself. That's exactly what that gentleman was talking about in your last interview. And that is the fact of what is better. What can you do? And the reality is what you can do is be one-dimensional. The one that wins and loses is not me. It's not your financial person. It is you. And make sure that what you own is literally available to you when you need it, and not having to say, Mother, may I, to anybody to get liquid when you have to. I'm done.
So what do you make of, I asked him about it, I'm going to ask you too. What do you make of Trump's idea of the 50-year mortgage?
I think it's ridiculous.
Me too.
First of all, it's ridiculous. When you run the numbers out into the future, I think it's just a play on words, quite honestly. Because when you run the numbers, you really are not building equity. Like at the end of a mortgage, and a 30-year mortgage, if you play it right, you can build equity, you can make double payments. In a 50-year mortgage, the last 15, 20 years are literally all interest. It's really eating into you. I understand what he's trying to do by trying to bring the housing market back. I think a lot of that could be done with regulations. I think there should be the limitations on how much realtors can make. That'll sit back and make them be more concerning about jacking up prices. I think appraisers should be checked out for what they're doing of jacking up appraisals to play into the system. I was just involved with somebody who bought a house, and when the realtor called me and was asking my opinion, because she handles rental properties, and I talked to her about that for myself in the past. Let me tell you something. The big problem it smelled is the house was overappraised. The people buying it had no cash. And right now they got it. They got a ridiculous mortgage. And guess what? I bet you this thing goes upside down within 90 days. And why did it happen? Because the appraiser wanted to get paid. The real estate agents all wanted their money, and nobody cares. So there's a broken system in the real estate market, and you live in a Valhalla there, where you live in Tennessee, because it's a great area where you have affordable housing and good income combined. You can have affordable housing in Arkansas, but you don't necessarily have the good income to go with it, which is important. But what the other gentleman was saying, but he's absolutely correct, this idea of 50-year mortgages, this idea of understanding the fact that when this situation comes down, and I don't believe it's going to be favorable on these tariffs, nobody's warning you. The only people who've been warning you literally is us. The gentleman you had on before, Brannon Howse, who always tries to warn people ahead of time over the years, repeatedly Worldview Weekends ahead of the curve on that, on every single aspect. And what we've been talking here at Swiss America, you know, everybody thinks we want you to put all your money in gold. We want you to be balanced. It's what we're talking about, balance. Make sure what you have, that what your assets are balanced and controlled by you, that you don't have to go elsewhere. And in this environment, when 2008 happened, Brannon, how come so many people got caught with their finger in the cookie jar? How come that happened? Because that happened because they didn't want to listen. We weren't promising them things. We were trying to protect them. Everybody else was promising them. Greed stepped in, and guess what? A lot of people went back to work, and I know you had friends that did. I know you did.
Yep, absolutely. Well, all I can say is I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. People need to understand. I personally, my opinion, think this system is a house of cards. I think you see guys that predicted The Big Short, Michael Burry. I'm not endorsing the film, folks. I'm not promoting the film. I'm not saying go see the film. I think there's some pretty tough language in there. I don't know about, anything else much about, but I've seen a lot of clips of this film. And you can see a lot of it actually on YouTube and Twitter, and without even having to watch the whole film. You could just get an education by watching a few of the clips. But this guy predicted this, and he ended up making, I think, a lot of money from that. But very few people saw it coming. How many people are talking the way we are, Michael, in closing? How many people are talking about the fraud, what are reportedly to be the fraudulent school bonds of $17 trillion across the country? How many are talking about the banks holding derivatives? How many are talking about bail-ins? I mean, Mitch said last year they passed a law that the courts are allowing for a bail-in so they could take a big chunk of your bank account from you. How many people are talking about that? How many people are talking about the issues we're talking about here on this broadcast and giving financial opinion and warning to people? How many? I don't hear a lot of people doing what we're doing.
I would say less than 1%.
Yes.
The reason why is it's one little factor. It's called greed. Telling people the truth sometimes hurts.
Yep.
Literally hurts. I had one.
Well, you know what? And if I were greedy, I wouldn't do this, because I would say, well, I don't want people to not give to my foundation. Maybe they won't give to my foundation. Maybe they'll be so concerned about the economy, they're like, I got to pull back on giving. I'm not giving it all to him, because I'm not going to give to anybody. I'm pulling everything in. I'm not going to go join his vault because I got to, save my money. Well, you know what?
Exactly.
I speak the truth, even if sometimes it hurts me, because I care about my audience and I care about truth. Okay. And I don't want it on my account or my conscience that I didn't do my job. People tune into this broadcast because they trust us to tell them the truth, even sometimes when that truth may hurt us. Meaning some of you are like, you know what, I was going to write a nice end of the year check to this guy's organization and ministry. Not going to do it. I better save. You know what? If that's what the Lord's laying on your heart, then don't write that check. Get your financial house in order. So yes, a lot of people won't say this because they're like, well, it might hurt the giving to my organization. You know what? I'm not going to be held accountable for withholding information to people when I could help them, not hurt them. Okay, now if you want to follow people that won't speak the truth because they want you to give to them and buy from them and telling the truth might cause that, then go listen to those kind of people. But I wouldn't trust anyone like that. And I'm not going to be that person.
You know, I had a lady from Worldview back in 2009 that called me up right after the collapse. And I had talked to her 2 weeks before it, and I warned her. I said, get into cash. Don't have to buy gold yet. Get into cash. Let's sit back, get that going right away. Her broker, her financial advisor, legitimately told her he thought I was absolutely crazy, and that he knew more than I did, was much more educated. Well, and I'll do, if you want to compare diplomas, come on, I'm ready. That's the education is not all what you learn in school. Education is what you learn on the street. And understand the fact that what we try to do here on Worldview is not get the greed in. These people talk about how they're going to make you money. We're talking about how we're going to protect and preserve what you have, not only monetarily, but also literally, physically, with certain things that you need to keep your health and life together. And what's really important when you have organizations, and I'm not plugging Worldview, I have no ownership in Worldview other than Brandon and his family are dear friends, and I watch the kids grow up, and, you know, I can only say that the dogs both like me better. But at the end of the day, I can say that getting the information that Brannon is willing to put out to you, which costs a tremendous amount, needs support. People should support that type of effort, not support the efforts to go to a baseball game. This is important information. And what it will become even more important is when it happens and people start calling up Brannon or calling me up and saying, God, I should have listened to you back then. We're trying to tell you beforehand. We're trying to tell you to act versus react. Don't run to call people when the problem happens. Organize ahead of time. That's what Worldview is all about. That's how I look at it.
Yep. Well, we're definitely trying to predict trends and help people understand the times and rightly respond. And I'm very concerned, and I feel like President Trump has been brought in as a salesman to convince the American people that the economy is not crashing. And he tells us, and you probably have seen the clip, how great the economy is and that the utility bills are down, energy prices are down. That's not true. And I'm sorry. I came in so excited about Trump's second term, and I tell you what, a lot of people are disappointed. They're just at so many different levels. But I feel like he was brought in to sell us on the reset, to sell us that everything's great and fine when they know it's collapsing. But he keeps telling you how it's all great and fine. Well, you don't have to believe me. Go do your own homework. It's not great and fine, is it, Michael?
No, I think, again, the tariffs worked in 2016, and this time they were all ready for it. Every country was ready for it. You didn't see the rollover like in Mexico and Canada. You didn't see the rollover in China that went on so quickly. None of that happened. But we're also, one thing that wasn't mentioned today, and I'll throw this out to you. We've talked about the fact of a financial metamorphosis going on globally. We are heading into a digital world. It's like going from dial-up phones to push buttons. It's going to be happening, and it's not a matter of a year. It's not a matter of months. It's in weeks in front of us. Europe is doing it. China is doing it. Japan's doing it. And when that digital happens, coupled with this, the devaluation of the dollar is inevitable, and things are going to happen that you need to be prepared for. So it's not just what Trump is forced to sell, it's but being prepared for what he's going to be forced to do, literally.
And I would tell you again, my opinion, you better be very careful, these financial planners that want to have you locked into this system. If you want to sit there and listen to them, that's obviously your right to do. But why do you want to be locked with all your eggs in one basket? Why do you want to be locked into a system that could collapse, seems to be collapsing in my opinion, and that could be locked, you could be locked out of? Why would you not want to be in something that you have control over and that you can liquidate fairly quickly from everything I've seen and done over the years. So that's my opinion. I'll tell you finally, you guys can do business with other gold companies if you want to. I've had other gold companies that want me to talk to them, but I've been working with Swiss America, 17 years now, 18 years?
17 years.
And we don't get complaints. We don't get complaints. They've never missed a buyback since they were started, in 1982?
Yep.
So if you guys want to go deal with another company, do so. But you better understand the rates you're paying and wonder if the company you're buying from will pay you back or do a buyback from you. So I am with Swiss America and have left Swiss America for a very strong reason. I know their founder. I know their CEO. I've worked with them, and we don't get complaints. Our audience has done, and they thanked me. Thank you. I've gotten a lot of emails. Thank you for introducing me to Swiss America. They've taken good care of me. And one of our guys came in there when his house burned to the ground, and he didn't even have his driver's license. And he brought his gold from the bank deposit, the safe deposit box, and walked out of there with a check for like $264,000, right?
It actually was more than that, but yes, absolutely. It was the only thing he could get his hands on. It was the only thing that he controlled. And one thing I can say, and we appreciate, working with Brannon just as much as he does, but one of the things with consistency that we've had and working with Brannon, besides watching the kids grow up, and Logan was just a little kid running around like a lunatic. Ha ha, Logan.
He was actually running around on he was actually running around on one of those boards. What was that board? A hoverboard. He would run around the conferences on a hoverboard.
Yep. Let me just put it to you this way. Brannon Howse and Worldview Weekend, we talk about our consistency. We are consistent. We do everything we say we're going to do. Do we claim to be the cheapest? No. Do we want to be the cheapest? No, because the cheapest is usually the worst because they don't buy back and they tend to disappear. It's they're operating on a shoestring. You got to make money to pay your bills. But one thing I can say in all the 17 years I have dealt with Brannon Howse, he is consistent. Worldview Weekend is a consistent safe haven for people who want to get protected and get information, and it's the best place to go to get it. And if you don't help that situation, you're crazy. You really are.
Well, there's a reason why our two organizations keep working together. There you go. Get the information. It's free. No obligation packet. I mean, what do you got to lose? Get the packet. Write down your questions. Call Wes or Michael back, and he'll answer all your questions. 1-877-864-1072. 1-877-864-1072. Again, 1-877-864-1072. Or go to worldviewgold.com. Fill out the form. Get the free no obligation packet. Precious metals, bullion. It's like freshly minted silver or gold. Numismatic, 1933 and older, that comes with privacy. And then putting gold into your IRA. Okay? There you go, folks. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought up that IRA too.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to the Dolly cam. Show Michael Dolly real quick before we call it a night. Look at that.
I sent her my picture. I sent Dolly my picture. She can keep it over there.
So she has her favorite family photos and friends. She's got her ball tucked right up onto her back leg there. She's guarding that ball. She doesn't want anyone else getting her ball. Yeah.
Well, probably so anyway, Logan takes it.
Oh yeah, Logan likes to take it and throw it. Oh. Are you waking up? Oh, Michael's on the line. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Dolly. How you doing?
All right, guys. We'll be right back.
You guys have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Bye-bye.
Do you know about glutathione? You can't live without it. It's a naturally occurring ingredient in your body. But guess what? It starts to decrease around the age of 20. You need glutathione. There are over 165,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. It detoxes your cells. And we know there are toxins everywhere. In fact, studies have shown glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Check it out at swishforlife.com. You just put a small 2 caps in your mouth, swish it for about 3 minutes. Then you can swallow it or spit it out. Studies show that this is in your bloodstream within 90 seconds. It's better than an IV. That'll cost you about $250, and it's broken down. But when you swish with it, it is in your body in 90 seconds in its totality. Glutathione, you need it to live. Swishforlife.com. Swishforlife.com. Joining me now is Anni Cyrus. It's almost like on a nightly basis now. We have to keep getting Anni to come back. Not that that's a bad thing, but so much is happening so fast. I played this clip today on radio and television at 1 o'clock Central. I asked Anni back to talk about this and more. The president of Syria, a guy we had a $10 million bounty on just a few months ago, who's now gone to the White House yesterday, was on Fox. This is a pretty easy answer. Listen to how he answered this question about 9/11.
Do, Mr. President, have regrets that al-Qaeda carried out those attacks that killed 3,000 Americans?
I was only 19 years old, so I was a very young person, and it didn't have any decision-making power at that time, and I don't have anything to do with it. And Al-Qaeda was not present right then in my area. So you're speaking to the wrong person about this subject. We mourn for every civilian that got killed, and we know that people suffer from the war, especially civilians who paid a price, a hefty price for the war.
Okay. As Itamar Marcus pointed out from Israel today, my guest, notice he didn't say, no, I regret that happened. He said, we mourn any civilian that gets killed. Well, I thought, wait a minute, is he parsing words? Would he, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the rest of these Islamic jihadists consider me a private citizen? Or Annie? Or you? Or would he consider us warriors? Because I'm a Christian Zionist. I believe in the biblical and historical right of the Jewish people of the land. Would he and I'm sitting here exposing Islam left and right every day. Would he consider me a citizen? Or would he consider me a combatant? Would he consider me a warrior on the battlefield that needs to be taken out either through civilization jihad or direct jihad? So I just thought, wait a minute. I wonder if there's something in the Quran about this. Going to be now to answer that question is Anni Cyrus. Anni, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
It's good to be back, Brannon, even if it's on a daily basis.
Yeah. So what do you think when he says, oh, yeah, we mourn for any civilian? Does he differentiate American citizens, certain types of American citizens from, quote, civilians? In other words, am I a civilian to him? Are you a civilian? To the Islamist jihadist out there, are we just civilians? Or have we gone into a different category because we're actively warring against the worldview of Islam?
We're definitely not considered civilians. In Quranic verses, in Hadith, in Sirah, in Reliance of the Traveler, there is, first of all, there is no such a thing as civilian. It is the believer versus non-believers. That's it. A lot of the Quraysh members that were killed by Muhammad, they were civilians. They were fellow Arabs of Quraysh tribe, but they were not considered civilians, if we're going to use the word civilians today. If you are not a Muslim, if you're not an obeying Muslim, you are not considered civilian of any sort. You don't even have to be a Brannon Howse and an Anni Cyrus and a Osama Dakdok. You can just be a non-Muslim 2 houses down, and you're not considered a civilian. But this gets more interesting. I covered the entire interview on my show today, Brannon, because every single point was interesting for me to dissect. But this one part you just played, if you replay and listen to the response, he's not addressing the day of September 11 at all. He goes with, we mourn all civilians who were killed, all those killed in war. He's not talking about Al-Qaeda's actions. He's talking about America's reaction going into Iraq and then Afghanistan. That's what he's referring to.
So he's referring to the civilians of his own people.
There you go. Play it back. It's
right.
Short enough. I think we can do that. Listen to the exact phrasing.
Okay, here we go. You're so good at this, Anni. This is why we have her on.
Thank you.
Do, Mr. President, have regrets that al-Qaeda carried out those attacks that killed 3,000 Americans?
I was only 19 years old, so I was a very young person, and it didn't have any decision-making power at that time, and I don't have anything to do with it. And Al-Qaeda was not present right then in my area. So you're speaking to the wrong person about this subject. We mourn for every civilian that got killed, and we know that people suffer from the war, especially civilians who pay the price, a hefty price for the war.
There you go.
There you go. They paid the price for the war. The civilians. They paid the price for the war.
He's not even talking about September 11th.
Right.
They mourned the death of Iraqis and Afghans who died of the war that came after Al-Qaeda's action.
Wow. Great pickup there.
Thank you. And here's another thing. Two things I want to add. I can barely hear the Arabic there because the translator is so... I so hope I could get the original file. But there's a slip of gap that I can hear. He does not say you're asking the wrong person this question. He says you're asking an innocent person in this case.
Wow.
La khata. I committed no wrong. Innocent. The translation is super sugar-coated, which is okay. But when I caught that, I'm like, oh, you actually think you're innocent when it comes to that. We're asking the wrong, now they say you're asking the wrong person. Another claim that is absolute lie, and Hudna here. He claims he was only 19, he had no decision-making power, and Al-Qaeda was not present in his area. If you read his history, if you dig enough like I did, he started getting attracted to jihadist group at 13. By 15, he started moving with a couple of his friends who wanted to join Al-Qaeda, and he moved to Al-Qaeda. By 19, he already was part of Al-Qaeda. By 22, Al-Qaeda sent him back to Syria to become the leader of Syrian Al-Qaeda. So that claim is a lie, that at that age there was no president of Al-Qaeda in his area. Technically, it's a taqiyya. It's true, but he wasn't in his own area either.
And
he was already...
describe Hudna again, please. Hudna.
Okay, Hudna in Islamic teaching is so I should go back. Before we get to Hudna, under Islamic ruling, based on Quran, few different verses, but specifically Quran 47:35, orders do not call for peace when you are superior in numbers. You, as a jihadist, you are not, it's forbidden to go for a peace treaty if you are winning the war or you have higher numbers of soldiers. Hudna comes after this. Now, if you are not superior in numbers, if you need a break, you need to catch your breath, you're losing the battle, you're allowed to sign a peace treaty with Kafirs, infidels, until you regroup and come back and finish jihad. That is called Hudna. The root of the Hudna war comes from the first man who did it. When Muhammad was losing a battle to a Quraysh tribe, he signed a treaty with them for 10 years that were going to coexist. He took 2 years, regrouped, rebuilt his military, and went back and killed them all after 2 years. That treaty name was Hudaynah. The name of that treaty was Hudaynah. From there, Hudna came to picture that when you're losing battle, and there's a limit, by the way. Reliance of the Traveler on chapter 9 explains you cannot coexist with them longer than 10 years. Get it together, fix your issues, build your army within that 10 years, and get them. 10 years is your extension, maximum extension. So that's where Hudna comes from.
All right.
Did
so
I go
what
too
else?
fast?
No, you're in fine. What else did he say in that interview that caught your attention?
Oh, the best. Okay, so we were sold yesterday that he's coming to America because of 3 reasons. One, he's coming to sign and join the coalition of America, the American coalition to stop and fight ISIS. Number
By the way,
2.
I want to go to that because how silly is this, right? Syria signs declaration to join U.S.-led coalition to defeat ISIS terrorist group.
That's a lie.
Isn't he ISIS?
No, he's technically Al-Qaeda. I kept saying that yesterday. I'm like, let's get it. He is Al-Qaeda. Does he care to finish ISIS? No. Is he going to sell his Muslim brothers to us? No.
Well,
but
I know he was. I knew he was Al-Qaeda. I knew that, but I didn't. Doesn't he overlap somewhere with ISIS?
Well, he started at 13 when he got attracted to the whole idea of jihad with his buddies, neighbors, whatever. They first started leaning toward ISIS at age 15 when he started his travels to find an actual jihadist militia. He started leaning toward ISIS. Then he found more common grounds with Al-Qaeda. So he went and officially, well, a few reasons. Number one, he is a strong believer of global caliphate, not Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq caliphate. He wants global caliphate, which is Al-Qaeda. If you read Al-Qaeda's manifesto or charter, they are looking at global caliphate. That's why they come and commit jihad in America. He also is a strong believer in global caliphate. That was number one reason he found more common grounds with Al-Qaeda. Secondly, Al-Qaeda at all time until after September 11, Al-Qaeda had a much bigger training weapon. They were way more serious in global scale, and he loves that. Just look at him as he's walking in the White House yesterday. Entitled, I have the right to be here. And you look back at his whole life, he always had that entitlement. That fit perfectly with his personality under Al-Qaeda. Also, Al-Qaeda was doing chapters ISIS wasn't. Later on, ISIS-K came to be, but Al-Qaeda had the Afghan chapter, Pakistani chapter, Iraqi chapter. Then he became the leader of Syrian chapter. That was number 3 for him to lean more towards officially becoming Al-Qaeda operator. Why do I know all of this? I need to do art.
Yeah, exactly. You, at the live up lutfstudio.com. So what does all this tell you that we're Syria's signing a declaration to join the U.S.-led coalition to defeat ISIS?
But that's a lie. That is a lie report. Every conservative media outlet, alternative, they're all reporting this. But guess what? The very clip you showed, if you play the very second question he's directly asked, did you join the coalition? He flat out says no. He said no. He said, I have lost man to ISIS. And I understand U.S. president has reasons to have troops in Syria. Code, something we weren't told, is slipped, and now we know. Trump is sending troops to Syria. The very Trump who in 2013 told Obama to pull our troops out of Syria is now sending troops to Syria. That's a side note. But Jelani literally says no. He has his reasons to send troops to Syria, but there are things that needs to be discussed before we come to an agreement. So those reports are not even true. Jelani said he did not. Syria did not join the coalition yesterday. Then goes on to say Syria did not. No, we are not. A question about Abrahamic Accord, he said we are not going into any agreement. Maybe Trump can make some sort of deal for us, but we know Israel is occupying Golan Heights and we're not going to have any negotiation with Israel. The second lie we were sold about him coming to America. He has no interest in talking to Israel or coexisting with Israel. He said
that in the video. He said that in the video.
In the interview. That's why I took the whole hour of my show today, 5 questions, 5 answers, and I took the whole video to break it down. We're being fed lies, straight lies from the White House. He did not agree to any of the 3 terms, but he left with a red MAGA hat, of course, for PR purposes. $120 million unfrozen assets. That's literally cash on his hand. Syrian embassy in D.C., which will be a flawless portal to import his soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And we got
nothing. Back up right there. He's getting an embassy in D.C., so he's going to get all the benefits of the diplomatic pouch, shipping stuff in here that doesn't get checked, right?
And and the ambassadors and the visitors who are going to get visas come in, no checks, nothing, just come in, commit whatever crime.
So we just gave Al-Qaeda
an embassy.
The keys to the bank, the keys to the vault.
Yes, sir. No. I'm going to be very picky because today I had this a smile because last night I knew I'm going to come back today on air, my show, your show, anybody's show, and I'd be like, told you. So Trump just gave Al-Qaeda the key to the bank. President Trump did it. Nobody else. This was Trump doing it.
Here he is on Fox News, what she just said about Israel. Here we go.
President, the White House has said that President Trump would like Syria to join the Abraham Accords. The foundational principle of the Accords is that Israel has the right to exist as a sovereign Jewish state. Is that something that you agree with?
I believe that the situation in Syria is different from this situation of the countries who went on with the Abrahamic agreement. Syria has borders with Israel, and Israel occupies the Golan Heights since 1967. We are not going to enter into a negotiation directly right now. Maybe the United States administration with the President Trump will help us reach this kind of negotiation.
Okay, so as long as Israel's in the Golan Heights, sorry, we're not negotiating?
Occupying. The textbook, right? Occupying, not in Golan Heights. As long as Israel is occupying Golan Heights, we're not negotiating. But let's touch on three very important things. Number one, our situation in Syria is very different than the rest of the countries that signed the Abrahamic Accord, because we have a border with Syria. So does Egypt. Hello. Prepare, Mr. President, before you show up on cameras, because we watch, and then we dissect what you said. So does Egypt. You're not the only country with border with Israel that is being invited to sign the Abrahamic Accord. Number two, he repeats the narrative, occupy, occupy, occupy. Number three, why do you think he says maybe President Trump can help us come to an agreement? What do you think that's the name he drops, Brannon?
Because he's counting on President Trump putting leverage on Netanyahu?
Because so far President Trump has done all favors for Hamas. Why not for Jelani?
Is he also counting on President Trump to put pressure on Netanyahu?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a fascinating. I don't know this lady. I don't know if her questions were written by herself, somebody else, if it was a trap, but I shout out to her. She gave me everything I needed to prove what I've been screaming since May of this year.
I think she has a background at the State Department.
Oh, there you go. Then
so, I mean, her background is academic. She's an academic type, diplomatic type person who came into media. She wasn't a media person. She's a think tank, State Department, intellectual, academic, historian type person who came into media.
That makes perfect sense, because she made all the questions simple and short, but it was perfect trap for every answer to give us everything we need to know. When I wrote back in May, titling my Substack, when Trump played Obama's game, everybody was screaming at me. Guess what we just witnessed last night? Obama 2.0, except instead of Iran, we handed it over to Syria. Instead of mullahs, Al-Qaeda got it. It was Obama's game, except, again, Iran's regime, as much as you know, I would love for them to be removed, to be destroyed, but at least Israel went after them for a little while.
Here's one clip as we get ready to wrap.
The White House has said that President Trump would like Syria to join the Abraham Accords. The foundational principle of the Accords is that Israel has the right to exist as a sovereign Jewish state. Is that something that you agree with?
I believe that the situation in Syria is different from this.
Okay, that's what we just played. So does Israel have the right to exist? He wouldn't even answer
he doesn't even address that. Here's the thing. In Hudna, there are limits. You don't get to acknowledge Israel's existence. No. There are limits when you go through the terms of Hudna are limited. There are only certain things you can agree to temporarily, and ever saying Israel has the right to exist is not within those limitations at all. No, he's not going to answer. He's not going to even acknowledge that. And that's the thing. From question 1 to question 6, he dodged every question, twisted things. Somebody mentioned on my show today that he's quickly starting to sound like a politician. I like to remind everybody, back in June, President Trump sent 2 Republican representatives to Syria to train al-Sharaa on how to be the president of Syria under title of Making Syria Great Again. Don't forget, he was trained by our Republican representatives.
We've done a show tonight, Annie, with Mitch Vexler, then Michael Weiner came in, and now you. And we are talking with the first 2 guys about basically where we are with what appears to be a fraudulent school bond, Ponzi scheme fund generating, revenue generating scheme across the country. Then you add in derivatives, and you add in our debt, and then you add in the war on the U.S. dollar by all these other countries abandoning the dollar, the death of the U.S. dollar, de-dollarization, if you will. What will be the trigger? What will be the thing that starts? Then you add in the AI being, many believe, overvalued. It's a bubble. And we're discussing what will be the thing that causes this house of cards to collapse. And now as I'm interviewing you, we add another one to it, terrorism, right? A major terrorist attack on the U.S. And we saw what happened to the country after 9/11, right? They had to pump out all kinds of money and all kinds of special tax deals. I mean, they were going on the TV begging everybody, go spend money. Go, you do your patriotic duty, go spend money. Because I think people were scared and they're sitting at home and they weren't going spending money because they were sitting at home scared. They needed people out traveling again. We got to get the flights going. We need you to get on airplanes. We need you to book business deals. We need you going. What do you think as I'm discussing this whole idea of, what could bring down our economy when you talk about terrorism and terrorist attacks? How does that play into your scenarios? Because the terrorists know how fragile we are.
They do. And here's the thing. I've been putting some reports out from Iran. Iran is now talking about yesterday, one of the heads in Iran actually said, United States of America just keeps talking. What is there they could do today? Their country is in complete chaos. They're seeing it, Brannon. The heads of Iran are coming out telling Iranian people, don't worry about America coming. They can't. They're in so much chaos themselves, they can't do anything to us. And of course, when I post that, a lot of people are like, they don't know anything. I'm like, no, clearly you don't know anything. Because they're right. What he's stating is accurate. We are in absolute chaos from every front of life we can think of. We have no security. Again, we just handed the, embassy to Syria. The entire system, by the way, just for the record, one of the 8 ceasefires Trump handled just collapsed. Afghanistan and Pakistan failed to come to final decision yesterday. And this morning, a bomb went off in Islamabad in front of a court. So the war in Afghanistan and Pakistan is back on. So all we missed it in Pakistan is up in the air again. Pakistan has handed over their nuclear control to their military. They passed the amendment to their constitution last Wednesday. We have a lot of Pakistani terrorists of ISIS inside America. So yes, the chaos is going to come to the very final stage of it through a terrorist attack. However, they even know that America has become comfortably numb to one terrorist attack. They see that we don't react anymore. So it's not going to be one terrorist attack. It's going to be a coordinated series of attacks in 5 to 6 different cities where we're going to be shaken. From there, it goes downward.
And I brought this up on radio and television today at 1 o'clock Central. Look at this headline. Hezbollah leaders reportedly have had facial surgery to conceal identities from the Israeli intelligence. We know that our government, thankfully, has captured at least one, well, we know for sure, one of the perpetrators of October 7th, one of the terrorists that was involved in killing. They caught him in Louisiana, a few hours south of where I'm sitting. I believe there's more. It's like cockroaches, I say. You see one cockroach, you know you got more than one. I would venture to guess there are several of the October 7th perpetrators already here in the country using their expertise, and they're probably rock stars in a lot of ways to the movement. So they're bringing some of their rock stars over to bolster the terror cells, train them, get direct training from someone who's been there, done it. But I also think it's psychological, because I think once, God forbid they do, but I think they will, carry out an October 7th style event in America, they want us to know that those guys were part of it, because they want us to know they can penetrate our borders, they can get past our systems, that we can be anywhere in the world. They want to terrorize the American people by letting them know that some of those actual October 7th terrorists were involved in this. And I think they'll willingly release their pictures and photos. Now, some of them may have had their faces changed. I thought, well, how do we know it's just the top Hezbollah leaders that have done this? I wouldn't doubt there haven't been some others maybe that have done that to get into the country. And they'll reveal who they are when it's right. But I would not discount, because of the idea of terror, that once they do carry an October 7th event out in America, they will let us know that some of those people that were involved in that over there were involved here, because it just adds to their image of invincibility and terror. And it's really a fulfillment of our promise. We told you, because we reported it that day on October 7th, we said they did. We're going to do this over and over and over again, and we're going to do it in America. And look at that. Our very warriors on the battlefield in Israel, they did it in the U.S. just as we promised. What do you think of that scenario?
I think that's very possible, extremely possible. And yes, they will take credit. One thing I will say is normally with these Islamist, jihadist groups, the leaders don't come here.
Right.
They'll stay where they're at. The coordinators, their trainers, their funder, all of them will somehow make their way here. But the leaders will stay back. And this is going to be one of those times. I was reading a piece on Iran's newsletter, the Islamic newsletter, and the emphasis on we need to unite, regardless of Sunni, Shia, Wahhabi. We need to unite and take out the enemy. I was like, this is going to be one of those times where Americans will come to realize, when I sit here and say the Sunni, Shia, Wahhabi matters over there, not here, they will come to realize, because the next attack is not going to be one group. It's going to be coordination from all of them, just like was September 11. Me and you, we know it wasn't just Al-Qaeda. We know Qatar was involved. We know Turkey was involved. We know Iran was involved. We know Saudi Arabia was involved. We know Oman was involved. I listed it on one of my Substacks. But this time, the names and faces you will see claiming the attack are going to be from every single one of these alphabet soups.
How about one of them, some of the groups being from China? Gordon Chang has warned that China, their guys are here. They're going to be involved in bombings, poisoning water. China will be involved. And with that as the backdrop, this is going viral today, and people are ticked. Listen to this.
Folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans
you would have the
of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
Do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. The students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive, but at the same time, I know you and I disagree. We're never going to agree on it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them. but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. You know, people are shocked.
Okay. I look at it from a business standpoint. Maybe that's the problem. This is a national security problem, not a bottom line problem. I've never seen Laura Ingraham push back against him so much. I think she realizes that, as I said on radio today, she's going to be around long after he's gone. And she's like, I got to preserve my credibility. But she's chuckling at him while he talks and interrupting him. And she keeps looking off to her side. I don't know whose facial expressions she's watching, but she's looking at somebody's reaction off to the side, either to gain support from somebody on her staff that's giving her body language that says, keep going, you're doing a good job, or maybe she's looking to see the body language of his chief of staff. I don't know. But she keeps looking to someone off to her side to see the reaction to that. Or maybe that's just her body language of coping with and turning away from his face because she feels uncomfortable doing what she's doing to him. So her natural reaction is to not look at him and then come back. I'm trying to read into what she's doing here because I've never seen her push back against him like this. I have another one to play where I think she's mocking him. All I can say is she's frustrated, possibly, number one, or number two, this is really about trying to maintain her credibility. So she has an audience after President Trump.
With Ingraham, she has fairly always been pretty vocal with China. I don't think it's even her credibility. I don't think she can help herself. It's kind of like putting me in front of Trump.
On Islam?
Exactly.
Okay.
China and the threat of China has been Ingram's. Like, I remember during COVID, Ingraham was like constantly, she was one of the first voices to say China virus, China did it, released it. So I think it's just such a close to heart topic for her. She can't help herself.
So what about the 600,000 students? You and I both know that a lot of those turn out to be spies. I don't know what percentage. A lot of them could easily be terrorists that they use. Not to mention they're here, I think, stealing intellectual property and whatever else they get their hands on as they get internships and whatnot. But 600,000 Chinese, I mean, people on the MAGA side are going nuts. I mean, they're having a fit. And I think I can't remember. It's been a long show tonight, but I can't remember if I read it or not. I think I did. But here's a guy, Mark Mitchell retweeted. The guy's done. He's like, I'm completely done with MAGA and Trump. The federal government could freeze assets, blah, blah, blah. He's 28 years old. All my conservative friends are done with Trump as well. Nobody's lives are any better. Complete unforced error. He almost died, and God saved him to give us, 50-year mortgages? Where is Trump? Because this isn't him. So this clip by, Ingraham, I want 600,000 Chinese in here because I got to save the schools. That's not free market. Why do we want to save these woke, anti-American schools? Why? Again, who's he cut a deal with? What kind of deals he cut with Xi Jinping? Because everything comes down to a business deal. He just said it. I look at it as a business. He just said that.
Yes, but also hear this one. He said, I want to get along with every country. Believe it or not, I want to get... This is all about the peace prize. Believe me. This is all about his precious peace prize that he needs to put his name by end of January of 2026. He's got 2 months left. He's going to shake everybody's hand. He's going to get along with everybody.
I think she just cleaned it up for us. I think she cleaned it up for us, Logan.
It's been a rough 2 days. Forgive me. This is all about the peace prize. He doesn't care. I agree with Ingraham. Who cares if half of what are our universities producing anyways? Who cares if we have universities or not? I'm with her. Let's shut them all down, if you ask me.
Exactly.
But the sudden switch of Trump, No, I didn't send it to you. I emailed it for my show. Logan should have access to that tweet from 2013 of President Trump. In 2013, he actually literally admitted Trump style of language, but he tweeted saying something like, I believe majority of rebels in Syria are radical jihadists, and they're not our friends, and get out of Syria. The rebels he's talking about are HTS. It's Giuliani he's talking about.
The ones he brought into the Oval Office yesterday.
Exactly.
All I can say is poor. No, I quote poor. There it is. There it is. That was from 2013. Many Syrian rebels are radical jihadists not our friends, and supporting them doesn't serve our national interests. Stay out of Syria. Well, that was 2013, and he's in Syria. That was before he was president the first time.
And those rebels are the president that we just invited in our country.
I was going to say, poor JD, put quotes around poor. Poor JD, I don't think he has a snowball's chance in where becoming president. First of all, because of the way this is going in the first 10, 11 months. But I don't think he has the personality, the charisma. He said too many things in the past about Trump that makes a lot of people don't trust him. But if MAGA starts turning on Trump, they're going to turn on JD as well. True or false?
Very true, and I will absolutely not mind that, because as you know, I do not trust J.D. Vance.
I think Patrick Wood is really hoping for a President J.D. Vance, isn't he? You co-host the show with Patrick. He loves J.D., doesn't he? We're being very sarcastic.
I know.
We're being very sarcastic.
The first time I heard the information on J.D. Vance and his passion and love for was Patrick Wood, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
But again, remember, this is all about that peace price.
Yeah.
He will do whatever it takes to get that peace price, including let's have 2 million Chinese students.
Do you ever?
Okay.
I know you don't, because you're maybe a little bit harder-hearted than I am. But do you ever feel sorry for President Trump? That there's a daddy wound or a mommy wound or something happened in his life where he just needs approval, and he's always grasping for something more, a little, kind of like, was it Rockefeller was asked, how much money do you really need? And he just said a little more. It's like President Trump, you've had so many successes in your personal life, business life, your public life, you're president of the United States for the second time. Why can't you just enjoy what you've accomplished and now just do what you were doing in your first term? Do what's right for America. Quit worrying about the peace plan, what everybody says, because you're going to go down in history with a lot of Americans in a negative way, when you could have gone down as one of the greatest presidents ever. And sometimes when I look at him, I find myself feeling sorry for him. I've met him, and we spent some time with him when we were producing that interview at Mar-a-Lago. And on a personal level with my team and my family, he was very personable. He was very humble, to be honest with you. He never talked about himself. He picked up on other people's names in the rooms. He picked up on my kids' names. When I would use their name, he would remember it, and he'd turn around and use their name. I mean, he was very personable, and he spent time with us. He signed stuff. He visited with us. He complimented the kids. How did you get your kids to turn out so well? Wow, you guys did a great job as parents. We have him on video saying these things because the cameras were still rolling. And on a personal level, I've seen him. He can be very, very warm, friendly, winsome, down to earth. And I just wish he would show that to the American people more and stop worrying about, the elite giving him a peace prize. But sometimes when I look at him, and I'm not saying this in a way to be disrespectful. And if he saw this, I wouldn't want him to think I'm trying to be disrespectful. I would want him to say, you know what, maybe I should consider what Brannon just said. I need to stop worrying about whatever happened in my past or what I didn't get from my mom or my dad or whoever mistreated me in the past. I don't need anyone's approval but God's, number one. So how am I doing on that? Number one. Number two, my family loves me. That's right. And then third, the people that know what's right and good for America and love our republic, I care about what they think. I don't care about what the elite think to give me a prize. But there are times I look at him and I find myself feeling sorry for him because I think, the guy clearly has something that happened somewhere where he needs to be loved. He needs to be approved. He needs to be affirmed. I don't know what happened, but I just wish I wish I could get to a point where I knew that he knew the Lord and could come to a place where he's happy because he realizes he has all he needs and his relationship with Christ would just, overflow with him and give him, as the Bible says, that his cup would overflow with. But I know other people get angry, and maybe that's because maybe they have never met him in person. Some I do know have met him in person. Now they're angry. But I don't know. Part of me just looks at him, and sometimes I feel sorry for him. I really do. I feel sorry for him, and I pray for him because I do feel sorry for him because I really wanted Trump to succeed. I really, really did. And I think a lot of our audience did because it's our country. It's our kids. It's our grandkids.
I do feel sorry for Donald J. Trump because the politician persona consumed him. What is underneath is consumed. There is no returning of Donald J. Trump that we watched on TV or the realtor guy or the father or the husband. The 2020 election created a persona that ended up consuming Trump and turned it into President Trump we see today.
So are you saying that was it bitterness?
Absolutely.
What they did to him in 2020 and after caused him to become so bitter he turned into who he is now?
He created a persona. That's why we don't recognize him today. The hurt was so heavy, he had to survive it by creating this persona that we see today. He survived that hurt because he felt betrayed by his party, by GOP, by his voters, by his support. And betrayal is one of the traumas that can change a man. And I mean change a man. And I think that's what happened to Trump.
That's pretty insightful, actually.
Thank you. I had to survive a lot of trauma.
Well, I was going to say, you speak from personal experience. Bitterness, resentfulness,
and revenge.
Feeling betrayed, that, and then revenge, that can, over the course of what now has been 5 years, you let that go on for 5 years, that can actually eat at you. And as you say, their personality just changes.
Huh?
That's very insightful.
Thank you. So yes, to answer your question, I do feel sorry for Donald J. Trump that faded away. Because I voted for that guy. He fired me up to fight.
He did a lot of people.
That guy.
And I think a lot of people do. I think in some ways, many people mourn. I think a lot of people are sad and they mourn because they realize we've lost that guy, like you say.
Yes.
But we realize we not only lost that guy, but we lost all the great things that could have come with it for our country and for our children and our grandchildren and future generations that could have righted the ship. And so we find ourselves back to where we were, mourning for our country. Because I think we now realize...
we're watching a movie in sequel 2 where the superhero became the villain of the movie.
I'll close with this. Laura Ingraham, I played this on radio today, TV, seemed to be almost poking fun at him here. And I wouldn't have done this. President Trump, I need to come to the Oval Office and do an interview. If you could handle Laura Ingraham, you can handle me. But I would have never done this to him. I would have never done this. I don't know what got into her. I'm not saying she was wrong to do it, but I didn't think it was very respectful. And I thought she was poking fun at him. I don't know if he realizes she's doing that to him. I don't even know if he realizes she's doing it, but I think she's making fun of him. Watch.
So these aren't like from Home Depot or something?
No, this is not Home Depot stuff.
No, not stuff you buy.
This is not.
No, not stuff you bought. That was a little condescending. No, not. I don't know if he knows, but it's all over social media, has been for several months now, that this is all stuff from Home Depot. And you can go online and you can see these things he's hung on the wall. You can buy them for like $50 at Home Depot. And people are saying he bought it and had it spray painted. So this is where she's coming up with that. Does he I don't know that he realizes that she is, I think, making fun of him. Or did she mean to do that? Is she making fun of him?
I think she is.
Because I wouldn't say that to him if I were in the Oval Office. Would you?
I would.
Yeah, you would.
I absolutely would. But I would top it with, is this the White House or the Sheikh of Saudi Koch?
Okay.
Because all that gold is very shaky for me.
For all the people who think I can be really tough and hard, just notice how I'm the one sensitive here. Okay, I'm the one being sensitive and trying to be kind. For all the people who think I'm sometimes hard and harsh.
Here's one of the
reality is you've been around me and my family on a personal level enough to know that at the end of the day, I'm actually the one, if anyone wants something, comes to me, because I am very tenderhearted toward a lot of people off camera. I'm just being honest. I am. I'm not a cruel person. I get very angry at times because I hate it when people get bullied and mistreated and manipulated. And I get angry on the air sometimes with people that I think are doing that to people, because I tend to root for the underdog. I hate bullies. I was bullied as a kid with dyslexia and being held back, and my sister being a grade ahead of me, and yet she's my twin sister. And I just won't get into all of that, but I've been bullied, and I don't like bullies. And you know, some of my quote success in quote in life has been the fact that I was bullied. I had teachers that told me I wouldn't amount to anything. I had high school counselor throw my SAT score on the desk in front of my entire class and tell me it was the lowest score he'd seen in his 25-year career. But he didn't, I guess, take into account my dyslexia. All that to say is I know what it's like to be bullied. And I don't like it when I see people bullied because I know how it feels. And when I see people being bullied or manipulated, it makes me angry. Even if it's not me. If it's someone bullying somebody else, it makes me angry. So I have a pretty sensitive heart toward that. And I say all that to say that maybe that's why I feel sorry for President Trump at times. Because he was bullied. The man was absolutely bullied for 5 years by our own government and the lawsuits and going after his children. And people can say, oh, that was all an act. I don't think it was an act. Because if it was an act, then he would have said, I'll play this role, but you leave my kids out of it. Okay? So maybe one reason...
You don't involve your kids with acts.
No, you don't. And so one reason maybe I feel sorry for President Trump is because I've seen him bullied. Okay, people say, well, Brannon Howse, he can bully people. Yeah, that tends to be sometimes what happens to people that are bullied. They turn around and bully. Now, where the pattern started, I don't know. But I'll tell you, that maybe is one reason why I feel a little sorry for him at times. But I think Laura Ingram's making fun of him. I want to play it again because listen to her tone. Listen to her tone. And she keeps coming back at it.
Very condescending.
Very, and needling him.
Thing with gold.
Why not?
You can't imitate gold, real gold. There's no paint that imitates gold.
So these aren't like from Home Depot or something?
No, this is not Home Depot stuff.
No, not stuff you buy.
This is not Home Depot.
No, not stuff you bought from Home Depot. She got to keep bringing it back up. I don't know. Maybe the other part too is, and I'm probably saying too much tonight, I have always had a soft spot in my heart also for senior citizens. Okay, even as a kid, when I would get taken to the nursing home with my Christian school, I always just had a soft spot in my heart for senior citizens. And he's now what? How old is he now? Almost 80 years old, guys? He's about 80 now, Logan? And I'm looking at him and his body language and how tired he looks all the time now. And I'm thinking, why are you doing that to him? Okay? For all his faults, and I have mine, why are you treating him like that? As a human being, not to mention as the president, but why are you treating him like that? You know, I don't like it. I don't like it, but that's where that came from. Is all over social media that those decorative things came from Home Depot, and I don't like them. I've made it clear I don't like it. I wish he wouldn't have done that to the Oval Office, but it's his office for now, and he can do what he wants with it. But I don't like what she's doing to him right there.
Actually, I finally figured out why he did it.
Why?
Because he has so many Arab Muslims coming to visit. He wants them
to feel at home, right? All right. Well, I'm on the record for what it's worth saying I don't like the bullying of him in this interview, and I think it's disrespectful, condescending. And if the president brings me into the Oval Office, I will ask great questions, but I will be extremely respectful.
President Trump should never invite me to the White House.
No, I will not bring Annie with me, okay, Mr. President? I won't bring Annie. What a conversation. Well, all I guess I can close with is this. Pray for President Trump. He's got over 3 years left.
Oh, may Lord have mercy on us.
You are praying for him, aren't you?
I am praying for him. I am praying for all of us. I pray for America every day, all day. But 3 more years of what we're facing, I might have started looking for an island to discover.
He looks tired. He looks exhausted. He looks tired. There's something going on.
Yes.
There's something going on.
That's why I say we should have, limitation on how old you are when you can run for president. I really think we do. It's a very hard work. It doesn't matter if you're pro-America, anti-America, you're Obama, it doesn't matter. You need to have the ability physically and mentally to handle it. It's a lot of work. Most of them, I'm the biggest, I don't defend Obama, but he went in there like a young man. He came out like a grandpa in 8 years. So there needs to be a cap of this is like maximum this age. After that, you're not to run for a presidential race.
That's a tough job. There it is, lutfstudio.com. Speaking of tough job, Annie has one, 24/7. Ooh, I love that one. I love that color blue.
Thank you.
I love that blue. What is that? What color blue is that? Do you know?
It's called Midnight Blue.
Ooh, I love that blue. My family knows I love blue. Well, I think I say family. I think the whole speaking audience knows I love blue.
I was going to say, I also know you like blue.
I mean, look at how I'm dressed, right? Look at the studio. I love blue, but I love that blue. That's a nice blue there. All right, so go back there, folks, and go to lutfstudio.com. lutfstudio. Ooh, there's another one of that blue. Some great Christmas presents there. Yep. lutfstudio.com. I get nothing for saying that other than I need her to make a living on the side. Okay, I need her to make a living on the side so she can afford to keep doing what she's doing and bringing us her great reports here and keep her show going at 3 o'clock Central. So Workman's worthy of their hire. So buy some Christmas presents over there, folks. All right, they're one of a kind, handmade by Annie. There you go. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Brannon.
Thank you.
Get some rest.
You too, my friend. All right, guys. You appreciate all we're doing here. Logan, throw up the phone number. Let's do the phone number. 901, what is it, Logan? 901-468-9357? You think that's what it is? Or is that the local pizza shop? I don't know. I think it's 901-468-9357. If you would like to leave a voicemail, we'd love 901-468-9357. Yeah. Joe's Pizza. Sorry. Brannon Howse gave out our phone number again tonight. No, that is the right number. Leave a voicemail of what it is you appreciate about our broadcast. Maybe how we've impacted your life. We got a great testimonial this week, as you guys heard from Drew from Michigan. We love to hear testimonials like that to encourage our other audience members. So many people were encouraged by Drew's testimony. Obviously, we were big time. But we'd love to play a lot of these on November 4 and 5 as we do our international Worldview Weekend that Thursday and Friday, December 4 and 5. So please leave a voicemail. We're trying to keep the voicemail cleaned up and cleaned off. So if you get a busy signal or you get a, hey, voicemail's full, try back again because we're trying to keep it clean. So many people are calling in that it's getting clogged up, which is a good problem to have. We're glad that's happening. We try to clean it off, get those all saved, and so we can re-air, play them for you guys. So don't hesitate to call back if it's full, okay? But we're trying to keep it open all the time. 901-468-9357, 901-468-9357. Will you guys also go over to worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution? Worldviewfoundation.com. We have to have a big November, December, folks. We've cut costs as much as we can. The issue for us, even though we're a debt-free organization, is cash flow. Keep the bills paid. And it costs an awful lot to do television. The bandwidth bill, the IT bill, the utility bill, the insurance, the guys in the control room. It's all so expensive. We had to order another server the other day. What did that server end up costing, Logan? $5,800, $5,800. Yeah. Every time we turn around, it's something. This isn't like, oh, wow, let's go get a new server. That's so fun. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's a server that we have to bring you the programming that we have. And we have hundreds upon thousands of dollars in studio equipment. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that you have to run a network this size with all the bandwidth, all the service, the storage of the files. We have so many files that our IT guy says that our database of files is as big as some Fortune 500 companies. That's how much data we have. And we have to back it up multiple times in multiple places. And then, of course, we have to stream it all. And then we have to have it where it's archived and on demand again. So it costs so much to keep a network going, and particularly when you're pushing out free programming. Worldviewfoundation.com. Please do that. The other way is through our vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. You can join for as little as $7.99 a month. Would you do that? Go to worldviewtube.com/vault. My new book on Hamas is in there. And we have some other books. My book on Siege. In fact, I've been going through that. Here it is. My book on Siege. Okay, so this is 8.5 by 11 double-sided. But it'll end up being a little books. It won't be a real big book, so it'll be easy for you to get through. Siege. And it's on my documentary. And And you want it? Yeah, I know. You want to go tear it up. That's what you do. You love tearing up paper. But I've been reviewing that because that's about to come out. My book, Sabotage, is about to come out. And then my commentary, my Bible commentary on Revelation, which will also have study notes at the back, that's about to come out. All of this will be in the vault. You don't have to buy those books. They're in the vault automatically under library tab and then ebooks. So please join. There's the new Hamas book. October 7th comes to America inside the U.S. network of Hamas. There's so much history there that people don't know. Why they hate Israel, God's plan for the nation of Israel into the future, which is coming together even now with the dry bones of Ezekiel, talking about it. Then next, the spirit of life from the Holy Spirit. So there's a biblical worldview explained there as well. All of that is part of the membership. Take a look at this. Plus, you get so many wonderful programs that are not dated. They are evergreens. It's history on the American Jesuits, my 53 programs on Revelation, my series on Brainwashed America, all of our conference DVDs, the convergence of end times, the rise of the Antichrist, my whole series on grave influence, put your beliefs to the test, the Black Reds, how the communists infiltrated the civil rights movement in America. So much of this is Marxianity, the Nazi ecology, all my documentaries. This stuff is timeless. You're going to be able to come back in here 5 years from now, watch this stuff, be just as relevant, if not more relevant than when I filmed it. And the vault is filled with this. So please go join. We need your support, and you need this education and equipping. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. We also have some very, very cool features we'll be adding soon that will be a part of the vault. The price won't be going up because we're adding them. So we're always adding great value to that vault. So please go join that right now, will you? worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Don't forget, folks, about getting your business cards at worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com. Get a stack of these business cards. They're absolutely free of charge. And then tell folks about our network, all right? Worldviewstore.com, all right? And then, of course, all of our sponsors, they give us a little percentage with each purchase. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview.